Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 5:30, and I'll call this work session of the Burnsville City Council to order. The city clerk, note that for the record that all council members are present. Please take the roll for council members.
Councilmember Gustafson.
Here.
Mayor Couts.
Here.
Councilmember Keeley.
Here.
Councilmember Schultz.
Here.
Councilmember Workman.
Here.
Thank you. We're still in COVID land, and so we continue to be flexible and nimble to provide our citizens with the work that we're doing. And so we are broadcasting this evening by Zoom, and the members of the public can watch the meeting online at burnsvillemn.gov/meetings or connect to Comcast channel 16 or 859. The public can also participate through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join or by calling 651-372-8299. More information is available on our meeting webpage and in the council agenda packet. Please note there is an audio delay if you are watching us on TV or online. So if you speak, please mute your video broadcast first. If Zoom meetings attendees experience audio issues, we ask you to leave the meeting and log back in the and this usually resolves the issue. So we have one emergency item that we need to address first. And this item is brought forward to consider the request for Alamagnan ownership by Crystal Lake Development LLC to include an overlook at Crystal Lake Development LLC related to the retreat on Crystal Lake Development located at 15309 Maple Island Road. Members of the council, this is an emergency item and I need a motion to allow this item to be placed on the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So moved, Gustafson.
Second. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Workman. Councilmember Workman.
Okay. Councilmember Gustafson makes the motion, second by Councilmember Workman. If the clerk could take the roll, please.
Councilmember Gustafson.
Aye.
Mayor Couts.
Aye.
Councilmember Keeley.
Aye.
Councilmember Schultz.
Here.
Councilmember Workman.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The item is now placed on the agenda, and Ms. Dean, you're presenting this item this evening.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for allowing this item to be heard before you tonight. The reason why it's before you, one, because there are, after this meeting, there will not be any additional city council meetings until January. The developer for the Northland retreat on Crystal Lake had reached out to city staff in just a couple of days ago before the weekend and had indicated that they were bringing an additional entity into their joint venture to help assist with financing for the project. So the original developer is still in the picture. They are bringing in an additional entity. We do have provisions in our planning and development agreements and other development contracts that stipulate if there is a change in ownership that city council needs to take action and approve that request. So we're before you tonight asking for that approval. As a reminder, this is the originally approved as 100 units of active senior living. It's since been changed administratively to 110 units. We anticipate that all changes that have been made will be reviewed under building permit and don't anticipate any additional review by planning commission or council in the future. And this normally would be on the consent agenda for approval. It's seen as a minor action item. So the request today is to approve the requested assignment of ownership by Crystal Lake Development to include the Overlook at Crystal Lake Development LLC related to the retreat on Crystal Lake Development located at 15309 Maple Island Road. Certainly available for any questions. We did have a couple of residents ask further clarification, which we've responded. Certainly, council, if you have any questions for me, I'm here to provide any answers. Thank you.
Okay, council, anyone has any question? This is a minor amendment. They're just adding one entity to their LLC so that they can finance this project. Are there any questions? There are no other amendments to the development agreement, and staff, you'll be working with our attorney to make sure that all of the items are correct.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve as stated.
Second.
Councilmember Keely makes the motion, second by Councilmember Schultz. The clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Gustafson,
Aye.
Mayor Couts,
Aye.
Councilmember Keely,
Aye.
Councilmember Schultz,
Yes.
Councilmember Workman.
Okay, thank you. And the item passes. Thank you, Ms. Dean. I think you have your item and ready for the developers tomorrow.
Thank
Okay.
you. Good evening.
So we'll now proceed with the agenda that we have posted, and welcome to everyone. So as we move through our work session this evening, I will ask everyone, if you go down to the participant list, there is a hand raise feature so that I can see who would like to speak, and I can navigate and have us all facilitate the meeting, and so everyone will have the time for their voices to be heard. So first of all, I want to welcome everyone. We continue to adjust to working together through a pandemic, and this is certainly a way that we can do that. The upcoming legislative session will provide its own unique challenges as the session is conducted remotely, and we face economic uncertainty. So we have a large group today, and while many of us know each other, I would invite you to briefly introduce yourselves, just your name, your district number, terms served, if you will, and then I will turn it over to our city manager to tee up our legislative agenda. So I am going to start with Ann Lincheski, and then I will just go across my screen and see everybody. But
can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Madam Mayor and council members, thank you so much for having us. It's great to see your current legislators. I see Senator Carlson and the new legislators and the entire council and staff. I am Ann Lincheski, and I am one of the lobbyists for the city of Burnsville. Very excited to be here.
Thank you. Melanie.
Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. Melanie Lee, Burnsville City Manager. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Okay. Michelle.
Michelle Collins, Burnsville City Clerk.
Greg.
Good evening, everyone. Greg Lindbergh, Deputy City Manager.
Representative-elect Kayla Berg.
Hi, Kayla Berg, House District 56B, following in the tremendous shoes of Dr. Elise Mann. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela.
I'm Angie House, one of the lobbyists with Blackridge for the city of Burnsville.
Ryan.
Good evening, Ryan Peterson, Public Works Director for the city of Burnsville.
Dan G.
Hi, Dan Gustafson, City Council, first elected 2004.
Kara Schultz.
Kara Schultz, City Council, first elected 2016.
Welcome, Senator-elect Lindsay Port.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Port. I'll be representing District 56 in the Minnesota Senate.
Councilmember Dan Keeley.
Sorry, help them unmute. Dan Keeley, Burnsville City Council, first elected in '07, and I didn't have any time that I was away before I came back, as Mr. Gustafson had. I didn't take any vacations away from council. I've been here every day since then.
And it certainly shows, Dan.
It does. My hair's a little
Senator Jim
grayer.
Carlson.
Hi, Jim Carlson, Senate District 51, which includes Egan and a lot of Burnsville. And I am entering my 13th year, and I'm pleased to be here, pleased to see the big group. This is the biggest group we've ever had. And I want to thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Melanie, for not having this on the same night and time as the Egan meeting. So this is great. And the drive is a lot shorter this time too.
Okay, Cullen.
Cullen Sheehan with Lockridge Grindle Nowen.
Okay. Welcome, Representative-elect Jessica.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm Representative-elect Jess Hansen. I'll be representing District 56A, which covers all of the city of Savage and the northwest part of Burnsville, where I live. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Councilmember Workman.
Vince Workman, Burnsville City Council, is first elected in 2018.
Representative Sandra Mason.
Hello. I'm Sandra Mason. I represent 51A, which is most of Egan, west of 35E, and then all of northern Burnsville.
Thank you. Dale. Okay, he's muted. John Buck.
Mayor, John is with a later item.
Okay, and Garrett.
Sorry, Garrett Beck, Parks Rec and Facilities Director.
Thank you. Jenny.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jenny Faulkner, Community Development Director here at the city, and welcome to our new legislators. I look forward to working with you.
Amber.
Hi, I'm Amber Jacobson, and I'm the Experience and Engagement Manager for the City of Burnsville.
Good. Megan. She's our host tonight.
Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Hamilton, Deputy City Clerk. I'll be in the background moderating tonight. Thank you all for being here. Feel free to type in the chat feature if you need anything.
Okay. Let's see. Carissa. You're muted, Carissa.
There we go. I'm Carissa Larson. I am Burnsville's Communications and Community Engagement Director.
Okay. Fire Chief BJ Jungman.
Good evening, everybody. BJ Jungman, Fire Chief for the City of Burnsville. Welcome to our legislators. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Brooke Jacobson. Amanda Prosser.
Mayor, Amanda's a consultant here for another item after this.
Okay. Police Chief Tanya Schwartz.
Hi, everyone. Tanya Schwartz, Police Chief. Welcome. Nice to see all of you.
Okay. I think the others then staff are consultants that are here for the other items, like Dave Magnuson.
That's correct, a later item.
Okay. And okay, we will then go back to our meeting. So, and now I will have our city manager, Melanie Lee, to tee up our legislative agenda. Melanie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, and greetings everyone again. I will go over briefly our legislative priorities for 2021. As you may recall, about a year or so ago, the council went through a pretty thorough review of the legislative priorities and really consolidated and targeted the priorities for the 2020 legislative session. Certainly with COVID, the whole session looked a little differently, but about 2 months ago, the council reaffirmed their legislative priorities for the 2021 session. And I will briefly go through those. We do have members of our team that will be helping me and our lobbying team on these items. So certainly if there's any questions as we're going through it, we'll welcome those. And then when we're done, we'll look to turn it back to the mayor. So with that, next slide, please. You've all been provided with a copy of our legislative priorities, and we've identified 3 primary positions related to economic development, environmental stewardship, and collaborative partnerships. Next slide, please. Under economic development, we are seeking special legislation for a special TIF district for the Center Village, otherwise known as the Burnsville Center. We went through a visioning process on this several years ago, and have been working to put more tools in our toolbox to help spur redevelopment of this regional destination. Within the footprint, there are 6 parcels, and we would use the TIF to facilitate redevelopment. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Next slide. The second item is environmental stewardship with freeway landfill and dump. So the overarching goals with this, as we all know, are to protect our groundwater. We also are encouraging the state to establish a remediation plan that would also allow for creative redevelopment that would enhance the economic vitality of not only this area, but also of the region. And so at this point, this is the current layout on the north side, or on the top side of the page. You will see freeway landfill and dump, 178 acres over the Jordan Aquifer and next to the Minnesota River. We need that to be remediated in a safe manner. Next slide, please. And the council has expressed support for a dig and haul remediation plan. This is a schematic that would illustrate what a redevelopment vision could look like at that site. We will be working with the MPCA and others to help advocate for that dig and haul remediation. At this point, the MPCA is finalizing their design for both dig and haul and their original plan, which was dig and line. They hope to have bids out in 2021 and then go to the legislature in 2022. And funding will be essential for this project to be successful. Next slide, please. And the third primary position has to do with collaborative partnerships. And that's fire protection districts. Right now, state statute does not allow for collaborative units of government to join into a district that would provide fire protection services similar to a library district or watershed district. So the city of Burnsville is supportive of this enabling legislation that would allow communities to partner to provide more effective and more efficient, more collaboration amongst fire departments. Next slide, please. Within our supporting position, it is firmly rooted within local control. That's with the understanding that municipalities are complex, professionally managed, and effective organizations. And our council is highly supportive of problem solving in a responsive and nonpartisan manner. Accordingly, next slide. Next, please. The council strongly supports items of local control, including land use, revenue sources, and maintaining existing revenue tools that are currently available to us. Next, please. The council does not support legislation that would erode local control, that would remove land use controls, that would impede or limit or take away the city's authority for zoning, planning, transportation, or imposes unfunded mandates. Next slide, please. And finally, we have 3 other supporting positions that are specific to Burnsville, and those are on your screen. It's the Host Community Economic Development Grant Program that recognizes the economic impact of being a host community with landfill, the aggregate mining fee that would encourage voluntary, mutual agreeable community fee between a community and the aggregate producer, and the primary service area, or PSA, which would eliminate overlap by allowing local units of government to establish their preferred provider. So with that, I would like to turn it over actually to Ann Lincheski and her team to provide a little bit about the work they've done for us and they will be doing for us, just to get everybody to know us a little bit better. So with that, turn it over to Ann.
Welcome, Ann.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members and Senate and Reps elect and current Senator and Rep. Nice to be here. We just have a few slides to click through quickly and just want to hear what's on your mind. So this is the team that works for you at the Capitol at Lockridge, Grindle now. And we take a bipartisan four-caucus governor approach at deep in the agencies to access everybody on behalf of the city of Burnsville's needs. So these are the folks who are at the Capitol every day, remotely right now. Next slide, please. I won't read this to you, but just, we really were trying to think this through a little bit for the newly elected. And we've just recently had some great meetings with every single council member. Just as you can just take a look there. These are some of the things that really is our work. Our strength is the relationships and the arena and understanding the black box that is Minnesota State Capitol. So these are some of the things that we are doing. We can talk about any of them. Next slide. These are some of the things we worked on last year and really spent a lot of time trying to soften up the folks to get that TIF bill through. And then unfortunately, COVID kind of changed everything. But here's some things that we're working on now and throughout this year on behalf of the city of Burnsville. Happy to talk about any of them. Next slide. As you all know, we just had our 7th special session. It's hard to remember. I think Angie was the last person on the meeting last night. I think it adjourned around 2:30 in the morning. So we're hoping that's it for special session 2020. It's worked actually quite well, and we've been able to stay in close contact with everyone we needed to. And I think we really saw the strength of the House and Senate leadership find a way to make this work. We're obviously hoping 2021 will change soon. That's the special sessions are now done, so we're happy about that. Next slide. I think this is really, again, I won't read it to you. This is the kind of stuff that you all want to talk about tonight. Is really what you want us to do. But we advance a strategy that the city council chooses to do, and then we're gonna, as Representative Mason and Senator Carlson know, with the 3 who will be sworn in soon, we really work with you to ensure that all the legislation gets introduced, gets hearings, and gets moved through the chairs. We have a lot of new chairs, a lot of new people that are just getting named at the moment, and work with the governor's office, both his senior advisors and his agencies. And then we work really through manager lead is really how we take our marching orders. The council decides, mayor and council fed to us through the manager and her team. And then we work directly with you as the legislators to understand what we would like you to do on behalf of the people of Burnsville. Next slide. So I think this is our last slide. Just, we all know this, but just maybe for the public. Yes, the state deficit got smaller, but it's still a big state deficit. That will be what we're looking for. One thing to think about from Burnsville is often cities who are not local government aid recipients are viewed as people who may not get harmed in a budget year, and that isn't true. The mayor and some of the long-term council members know that there's often efforts to change homestead credits and different mechanisms to make sure that the suburbs like Burnsville, I guess the word would be to contribute to the deficit. So we will be looking to see how that might get done, whether it's looking at pension aids and defending as we see it coming, what attempts there might be that could harm Burnsville in addition to your priorities. We all know it's a budget year, and that has to get done end of May. If we go into overtime, we have special sessions. If we don't make it until July 1, we go to a government shutdown. We're all hoping to avoid that. So we're all looking forward to working with the council, mayor, and the new legislators and the incumbents to get the work done for the city of Burnsville. And we're excited about the conversation tonight, and happy to learn where you would like us to work on your behalf. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Melanie, do you have anything else to add before?
No, we do not, Madam Mayor. That's the staff's information. Again, we'd be happy to answer any questions, but the intent for tonight is really to welcome our legislators and provide a roundtable opportunity to discuss the upcoming session and anything that you would like to.
Okay. I have a question for Ann. Ann, as you evaluated and as I listened to you, this year, because of COVID, we didn't have the opportunity to be before the legislature on our TIF or any of the items that are important to us. So can you tell me from your perspective, as you look at the lens that you're looking at in terms of this legislative session, what are the challenges that we have? And what are the opportunities that are before us? And how do we navigate through all of that together?
You know, I think, Madam Mayor, and I guess if it's all right, I'd ask Cullen to jump in on his perspective as well. You know, I think there is a lot of challenges. We have some structural challenges with COVID, of course, and you're all doing it too. But it's very different. And for some of the legislators we're talking with, we actually can get better access quicker because we're quickly on a Zoom call or a cell call. Others, it's harder. So we have the structural problem there. You know, I think we're all hoping that the election means that people will put all of that behind them. But you know, I do think one of the benefits we really have is, you know, new faces like the three on this call. Their leadership is going to be motivated to assist them as they learn what Burnsville needs. We also have to say and thank those who were senior members who assisted us before. So I think one of the great things for us is our TIF district doesn't cost the legislature any money. We need to get the new tax chair in the Senate to understand that. She's wonderful from Rochester, and we need to have her know about that. So we're looking with, you know, we worked so hard, as you know, Madam Mayor, to move Senator Chamberlain, and we succeeded. Well, now he's not the tax chair. So try again. You know, I think on the other thing, one of the things we have both helping and hurting us is the landfill issue is very expensive.
Yeah.
Both dig and haul, dig and fill, but they're both, you know, dig and line. On the other hand, they have to be done, and the MPCA knows it. And so the calendar is working on our behalf. What we have to do is figure out how to get folks not just care about the environment, which we all care about, but care about Burnsville's development right there too. So this will be part of the test with the clock ticking, putting pressure, even in a deficit year. I think, you know, we all understand the constraint of no money, but bonding for those projects makes it still has to get done. So, you know, I'll kick it over to Cullen if you're okay with that, Madam Mayor, to see what he might add to that.
Okay. Hi,
Yeah,
Cullen.
and I apologize. After 9 months, you would think I'd have my evening lighting down, so it looks like I'm in a cave. So I am not. I'm sitting at my desk. It's December.
Light, Cullen. It looks like you're in.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's December in Minnesota, and I still have not figured that out. So I apologize, but I agree with Ann completely. I think the deficit is the biggest obstacle. But I do think that with the members on this call, new members, new energy, and you know, with the Senator Carlson and Representative Mason and the experience in the House is our advocate on a number of your biggest issues. And so I think that's sort of the ace in the hole. Our challenge is going to be in the Senate with a new tax chair. But as Ann mentioned, I think Senator Nelson has a great respect for local government and the city that she represents in Rochester. And so I think we'll appreciate the TIF issue in particular. As it relates to the environmental issue and the waste issue, we're going to have, it's a bigger lift on the Senate side, but Senator Carlson can speak from experience that There is always opportunity, and I think that Senator Ingebrigtsen and Senator Rude in particular will be open to the arguments that the city is making as it relates to cost benefit analysis, both for the benefit to the city, but also to the long-term benefit to the environment and wastewater and water quality. And I do believe that all of the city's priorities do have a path forward. But I think that it's complicated with split government, but not impossible. And I think that with this team, we can accomplish all of it.
Okay, very good. I'm holding you to that.
Yeah, I was right. Can we hold you to that?
Yeah.
Colin?
So here's
Anne's going, oh, what you had said that.
So here's the thing, because this year we can focus on the TIF district because the MPCA and that lift for Diggin Hall or Diggin Line is in 2022. So we've got some time to continue to work.
Yeah.
Also to get all of our senators and legislators and informed with what we have. So I think a lot of information and education for the landfill. But
yeah, the
big lift this year and a win that we need is the TIF district.
Right.
And I think that's possible with Senator Nelson and with Representative Marquardt. But the Diggin Hall and Diggin Line, yes, it's probably a 2-year lift. It's possible this year, but it is more difficult with the budget deficit, and the governor's office and his administration are clearly going to be something we're going to have to convince the department.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things, and then we'll get to our legislators, is that, you've seen our legislative agenda. And one of the things that Representative Mason and Senator Carlson that you've heard from us over and over again is local control. And that there is not one size fits all. We're all very different, even in the metro area. And so we want to make sure that you protect us. We all have shared constituencies. We all have election certificates. So trust us. We know our community better than anyone else. So allow us local control. We're also available to you, ourselves, our staff, what you need, information, we can be there. Whether you were available by phone call or text or email. And as you all know, Representative Mason and Senator Carlson, and then for all our newly elected representatives and senator, you need us to testify, I'm there. And we can do that. So, but we want to make sure that we are a team working together for the good of Burnsville. And so the big win that we need, and I can't impress this more, is that it's the TIF for the Center Village, the shopping center. Because once we have that tool within our toolbox, then I think we'll have some developers interested in taking a look at that whole area. So now, members of
Madam
the
Mayor?
Yes, Melanie.
You've got Representative Mason, and then Councilmember Keeley and Councilmember Schultz that all have raised their hands.
Yeah, I don't see raised hands. So, but good. I'm glad that you're taking. Yeah. Okay. Representative Mason.
Thank you. I just want, from the House perspective, I just want you to be aware that we are having a lot of new people this year. We've lost Lyndon Carlson, who has been our Ways and Means chairs. Every time the Democrats are in charge, he's been there since '72. He's leaving. Deb Dyson, who is our main researcher for local government, has left. We've had one of the major staff from our chief clerk's office. He has retired, and they're all retiring. But it's, I mean, so there, in addition to the fact that we had a number of House members that didn't run again this time. So there's a lot of new members. There's also a lot of new staff. So in addition to dealing with the changes that, COVID is requiring us to do, I think, just know that it's going to be probably a learning experience for a lot of people until we get things really rolling, probably past the first few months, but a lot of new people are going to be involved this year.
Okay, good. To Councilmember Schultz, yes, the landfill, the dig-in hall is important, but I don't know whether the MPCA is going to be ready to present that, or if this is bonding money that's coming out. So if I understand correctly, in terms of, and maybe the senator or Ann can give us the, from what I understand, that this is the year where they're doing a lot of the work with the legislators, and it comes up for a vote in 2022. Am I correct or not?
Madam Mayor, they don't have the design quite done yet, so we don't know how much money they're talking about. That being said, understanding the value of the dig and haul is going to be important, and building that understanding is what we hope our legislators will help us do, as well as Ann and her team. Yeah,
and this is the year of a lot of education, and to look at the cost benefit, as Cullen talked about. But it's not going to come up for a vote this year, but the TIF will. Okay, I don't know if you have hands up. I don't see the hands up usually.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to help. Councilmember Keeley is next, and then Councilmember Schultz, and then Senator Carlson. So I'll help cue you in on who's next. How does that sound?
Okay, I see that the hands up are in the thing rather than I don't see it up there. Right. Okay, Councilmember Keeley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just wanted to extend a welcome and a special thank you to Senator-elect Port and Representative-elect Berg and Hansen for the time that you gave myself and Luther Widener, the director of MBTA, some weeks back. That was really two fantastic phone calls that we got a lot done. We're able to hopefully help educate you on what was going on with the red line as a member city. And I appreciate that very much. We had a great conversation. It was great to get to know you a little bit on the phone or through Zoom, and hopefully we'll be able to meet in person sometime soon. Always great to see Senator Carlson. I remember many years ago, we met and took a tour of my employer's store, and I found out something that Mr. Carlson, I don't know how many others on this call know, that you are a I don't know what you call, like a veteran scavenger, artifact finder, collector, something like that.
I collect junk.
You collect junk, right? Okay, that's. I was trying to put it a little nicer, but great to see you again. And Representative Mason, obviously, thank you so much for the work that you're doing with your commission on the Met Council governance, addressing and taking up our issue with the red line for the MBTA and all of the opt-outs. I'm speaking a little more broadly now, as yesterday on our STA call, I was nominated, and I'll be taking Mayor Wojcik from Plymouth's seat, representing all of our STA, our Suburban Transit Association members, cities, on tab come January. So I'm really happy. I'm very honored to be in that role, and I'll be kind of a constant transportation thorn in your side, if you don't mind. I apologize. I just wanted to touch on the landfill just real quick. The one thing in that slideshow that I wish we had incorporated is an image of a representation of what the dig and line might look like. I doubt it's going to be the purple geometric shaped thing that an employee of the city of Bloomington started circulating way back when the landfill was asking for additional permitted space. But it certainly isn't going to be anything as nice as what you saw in that image, with all of that development totaling up to close to $1 billion. And the point being made is when you contrast the vision that we want to see happen, and Diggin Hall to the Burnsville Sanitary Landfill is the only way that that's going to really come to fruition. If something happens and the MPCA does not allow Burnsville Sanitary Landfill to expand capacity to take this garbage from these dumps, hauling it to somewhere else like Inver Grove Heights or Red Wing is going to be financially impossible. So Diggin Line is going to get forced in as the only viable financial option, which means we're going to have a giant green pyramid as you enter Burnsville from the north on I-35. And instead of $1 billion development there, you're going to see something in the 150 billion range. That's just not acceptable to us on council. We made that very, very clear to the MPCA as they presented to us the last couple of times. Kirk Kadelko probably didn't leave Burnsville feeling all that warm and fuzzy the last time he came and presented, because we basically rejected out of hand all three of his large, medium, and small pyramids as our entry into Burnsville, and said that they just weren't acceptable. And so we look at the benefit, the financial benefit to the city, the county, and the state. We look at the aesthetic difference that's quite different. And those two options, or those three options that they've presented, just don't make any sense for us. So we first and foremost want to get those landfills cleaned up, because we want to make sure we protect our drinking water and our environment for decades and centuries to come. But we certainly want to do it. That's going to help Burnsville and the county and the state at the same time. And a word about the funding model. We don't really want all bonding, because we would like to see some development there before 37.5 years. So using some cash, a mix of cash and bonding and other things, so we can maybe take some percentage of those parcels and develop them early on. Because one of the plans under Diggin Hall, there's a good portion of acreage that would be ready to be developed within 5 to 7 years. And we don't really want to add 30 more years on top of that before we can even start. So that's a key piece of information that we want to have you take away with tonight. But anyway, welcome to the new elected. Great to have you. This is amazing, large group with lots of pictures. And probably honestly, in the 14 years that I've been on council, this is one of the most interactive and engaging legislative priorities session I've been involved in. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit like C-SPAN when we're sitting in the council and presenting and talking about it. It's like you just don't really feel like you can have an open discussion. And compliments to Ms. Lincheski and Mr. Sheehan. The calls that we had with you were incredibly valuable to me. Best I've ever experienced. It's really great to have you, both of you, on, and the rest of the team, working on behalf of Burnsville. I think we have the best lobbying team we've ever had since I've been on council. And I'm excited about what we're going to be able to get done this year. Thank you.
Okay, Kara.
There we go. Yes, definitely welcome to everyone. Welcome to our elects. That's very exciting. Also, thank you to Sandra and Jim. You have both been open and helped me out on a couple things in the past year that needed rectifying, and you were very active and engaged and very quick on that. So I do appreciate that. I will also echo on the landfill situation. Although that may not come up for a vote until 2022, the mayor rightly says that education is going to be a major component in building momentum and consensus on this issue coming up. And Councilmember Keeley also notes that there are some smaller action pieces that need to happen this year to make the vote in 2022 even possible. And he did a really good job outlining our position and how we've come to this position and what needs to happen. And that 5 to 7 year mark of being able to develop at least some parcels, that is a huge thing. And it's not just a huge thing for the city of Burnsville. That is a huge thing for District 191 funding. When you calculate out what our school district could have, and 191 is at a little bit of a disadvantage because, although not so much anymore, but like the Burnsville Center and all those kind of things, those faced into a different school district. And so 191 has always, kind of been a little starved on, having access to funds. And this would finally, rectify that. So man, that's a huge thing when we're looking at our school district really struggling, the extra costs they're going through this year, and they will, and I mean, no matter what the feds do, no matter what the state does, they won't be made whole. No one will. And so they are really struggling and behind. So the thought of our school district starting to have access to those funds, if this area can be developed. If it's not developed, they're not going to get really crap for funds. They're not, that's just how it is. But in 5 to 7 years to be able to have that type of funding. And if you don't know the calculation for that funding, there is a calculation where it is estimated what type of funding that would mean for our school district. So, definitely, yep, I know the TIF vote is up in 2021, but we have steps we have to take in 2021 to make 2022 possible. So thank you. And I look forward to all of you lending your voice in support of that.
Okay, Senator Carlson, welcome. And
yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. And oh gosh, I have a lot of comments I want to make, but first I want to talk to Dan Keeley. I just got a new jointer for my wood shop. I needed to put bearings in it. And so I looked up the serial number to find out how old it is and where I can get bearings. And I find out that this jointer has not been made since 1944. So, that's the kind of things that I generally get, and I call them my new tool. But, we have had, this is kind of like getting onto a swing that is uncontrolled and it's spinning around. We used to have, a year ago, we had cash that was coming. We had a surplus that was projected. And then what happened? We had a deficit that was projected. Now we've at least come back a little bit, but that's going to be a problem for trying to find some cash to do anything with this this landfill. And of course, almost everybody knows the situation we have with the owner, that there's been less than just a great relationship there, and he would like us to buy it from him. And as the MPCA says, we don't just buy land to have the opportunity to clean it up. So we've got some policies here that are in the way, and that's going to take some work to flesh out. And I think, Melanie, there was something that you mentioned that made me think just a little bit. We talked dig and haul, and we talk line, but the dig and haul, we had a short meeting a few days ago, and one thing that came clear to me is that we're talking about dig, haul, and dispose, because if they come up with a project that needs to be bid, that the bidders will have to figure out how to dispose of that 6 million cubic yards of refuse, and it may go into the landfill behind Menards, but it may be hauled somewhere else too. So there's a broader project here, and all of them cost a lot of money, and so it's going to be really stressful to deal with this. But again, thankfully, Minnesota has said the garbage belongs to us all. So we'll have the entire state of Minnesota to help us pay for it down in Burnsville. So I don't call this the Burnsville landfill. This is the freeway landfill. And it is something that, and Ann, I know that a lot of this garbage came from your city. That's a fact. And so we need to all take our ownership here, and we're going to work on it hard. And we need, we've had a bill that has been offered a couple of times. We know it was too small, but we wanted to introduce it to get people thinking about it. And I think that's been pretty successful, that we've gotten it on the radar of some of these folks, that, we do have a major project here that has to be addressed. And, when I got into the Senate in 2007, we did talk about the lifetime of the Kramer Quarry, and that it was going to be suspended sometime in maybe the 10 or 15 years. But now we're talking about 15 to 25 years out. So that gives us a little bit of time. But nonetheless, the polluted water is advancing. So we do have to look at that as well. And when we talked to Kirk about it, he said that, yes, they have not done all of the characterization that they need to do yet to find out what's in there. And they still need to do some of that. So, and all of this is really confusing to everyone, but it's confusing to me too, just what our options are at this point. And Lindsay Port and a few of us, we talked about this, as well as the TIF district, and none of them are going to be easy to resolve. And I've been looking to see who's come on to the meeting here, and I wanted to phone a friend because we had Greg Clausen was going to join us if he could, because he's actually, he's very close to that school district, to 196. And he has talked to them about the TIF in the Burnsville Center, because like you say, that's in that district. So we need some friendliness there with 196, School District 196, because there's a lot of taxes there that they might not like to give up for a time. So there's and that's something that's going to be in Lindsay and Kayla's backyard here, because they're going to have to work on that. And like we've said, every time, we're right here to help you get that done. Sandy and I have not given up on the landfill, and it's not in my district, but I haven't given up on Burnsville Center either. I was here when it opened. So it's something that I want to see this be a good and vital area again, like it was when it opened. So as much as we can do, and I do realize that that's a complicated project too, with so many owners and so many different parcels involved. And I know that you got a very, how can I'm trying to find the word that doesn't mean hostile, but it wasn't a friendly reception from the tax committee. And I think Representative Linczewski knows that tax committees are not friendly with TIF. So you have a major issue to overcome there. But we're all saying that we're going to help you, even though in the Senate, we are not in the majority. We can affect some things there. And one of the experts on TIF is Ann Rest. And she said she would do anything she can to help get that done. So we have a really good background team here that'll help you get that done.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you, Senator Carlson. And you're absolutely right about how many people had dumped into the freeway landfill. Because if you remember, when the EPA stepped in, and this was some years back, probably 5 years ago, the EPA then stepped in and exercised the Superfund. And we found out when they sent out all of the information to all of the people who did put garbage into the freeway landfill. Oh my gosh, we had a meeting at the governor's office with all of these affected people. And they said, we already paid, we paid to the landfill owner. So why are we now going to be paying more? Because they were part of the Superfund site. And so we paused that. And at the time, I was one of the advisors to the EPA administrator. We're able to pause that Superfund action and brought it back into the MPCA so we can continue to work on it. But yeah.
Yes, and I think when we had that hearing in the Capitol that time, I don't think I've been in a room with so many angry people.
Oh my gosh.
And, I'm really glad that Senator Ruud is really on our side on this too.
Yeah.
She was very helpful with getting that, that issue set aside with the EPA, and also the change that we did for, I'm not sure what you call it, but you call it a taking, I guess.
Yeah.
Prior to proving that it's already polluting, there's the way to do the taking. We don't want to do a taking, but it is now available to us too.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you so much for all of your help throughout the years. And especially I am very optimistic and confident with regard to the shopping center and all of the work that needs to be done at this time for the freeway landfill to move forward. But one of the things that we all have to also keep in mind, and Ann and I talked about this when I had my conversation with Melanie, Ann, and Cullen, is that, you know, at the end of the day, it still comes down to McGowan. He owns the land, and I've heard testifying before the environmental committee for many years on this particular subject, that one of the big things is they do not want to feather the landowner.
That's right.
That has been a huge challenge, and then how we navigate through that and make sure. But at the end of the day, Mr. McGowan is the decision maker on a lot of this stuff. So, and thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, we have.
Yeah, I have Senator-elect Lindsay Port who wants to speak.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you all for inviting us to do this. This is extremely helpful as we're moving into our first session. So I appreciate all of your time. I have two sort of points or questions I have. One on the TIF request. I'm meeting with Ann Rest tomorrow to talk about putting this together and building it out and getting it ready for session. And I know you were like the tax guru in the house when you were there. So I'd love to just, after I have that meeting with her, would love to just connect with you and make sure that all the pieces are in the right place so that we can move forward with that. But she seems really hopeful and has already talked to Senator Nelson about moving this through the tax committee. So I think those conversations are at least semi-friendly at this point in a hopeful kind of way, but certainly, you know, we don't know what the session will bring. As far as the freeway landfill, I'm wondering if you can, maybe this is Ann and Colin, or maybe it's the council. Can you sort of describe more how you see potential funding working out so that we can start redeveloping it before the 37.5 years? Or maybe that's a bigger discussion than we can have tonight. But that I'm interested in what that might look like.
Ann and Cullen and perhaps Melanie, with all of the models that have been done. And I mean, I have heard it all, everywhere from 37 years down to, yeah, no, if we get this done, it might be 5. Well, we all know that 5 isn't going to be that magic number. Ann?
Sure, I'll just jump in. I think Councilmember Keeley raised a good point about, you know, how do we come up with the funding so that we can develop the property? And, you know, I think, you know, long term, the goal here is to have you and your colleagues carry this legislation. We can continue to rewrite it as we get hearings and as we get into negotiations. But I think the first place is probably the appropriation bonds, which, you know, Councilmember Keeley was referencing cash and bonding. In the bonding bill, there's always appropriation bonds, there's agency bonds. They're a little different. They cost a little more for the state. They don't have this 37.5-year restriction on them. So we're already talking to the MPCA that we want them to come forward with agency bonds. You know, we'll take it away to get it as Schultz told us money. If we can get them to just give it to us all in cash, that'd be great. But you know, that's much harder with deficit. So I do, you know, we've spent a lot of time with a lot of the state agency folks in the governor's office, and then both the House Nonpartisan Research and the Senate Nonpartisan Council trying to come up with other ways. And I think the biggest thing we'll probably be asking Terry is appropriation bonds so that the development rights maintain. But I think the thing to think about is that we do have in common with the MPCA, while we're disagreeing with them about some things, they have to get this done. They know they do. Otherwise, the water is going to be polluted. So they're very motivated too. It's how do we get them to the next step to make sure we get the dig and haul, and then how do we get the right bonding mechanism so that we can develop as soon as development can happen. Councilmember Keeley was pointing to the design. You know, that's really the rights of Burnsville. We're trying to get legislators to understand, because it really is the whole state that has brought that garbage there all that time, and Burnsville has had the overburden as the host community. And so we're trying to get Burnsville in the driver's seat. And also Senator Port, you know, there's a lot of actors around this, both owners, other governments, you know, we're here to just succeed for Burnsville's need. And sometimes, Senator Carlson was referencing that, it's hard to break through because there's a lot of people talking to new chairs, and it's easy for people to say, well, I'm kind of speaking for everyone down there. Like everybody's okay with this, and that might not be good for Burnsville. So that's the building of the relationship that we'll have to spend in 2021. And we'll work really closely with you, with Senator Rest and Senator Nelson and everybody on the tax committee and the bondings committee, Senator Bach, to make sure they understand, as Cullen mentioned, or maybe it was, I can't remember who, Senator Carlson, Senator Rude, who's in the majority and is the environment policy chair. So just a lot of moving parts. And we're really looking forward to working with you on this.
That sounds great. That's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, as Senator Carlson said, we met with the MPCA earlier this week, and they do seem motivated. So that is good. And they have a couple of policy things that they're going to be moving through the legislature this year to make sure they were set up to get the process started in 2022 effectively. So I think they are motivated. I look forward to working with you guys on this.
Thank you, Senator-elect. I now have Senator Carlson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask Representative Lencheski a question that she would only know, and that is when you're talking about appropriation bonds and you talk about them being more expensive, how much is more expensive? Today, the general obligation bonds are dirt cheap. They were just incredibly cheap. So if they're a little bit more expensive, are they grass cheap, or how much more expensive? And really, when we're talking about borrowing funds today, there really shouldn't be a big reluctance to go a little bit more expensive just to get ourselves out of that situation of the being withheld for that many years. Plus, we're looking at commercial industrial property here, which actually has a component of state property tax too. So there's a payback here.
Yeah,
So that's a little bit of
it's very little difference. It changes on the day they go out to market, right? It's not that different. And I think we're going to be arguing it's a distinction without a difference, because there's a responsibility for the state to pay that slightly higher burden to make up for what's happened to the city of Burnsville. And it's not uncommon, as Representative Mason knows, and Senator Carlson, there's always appropriation bonds in the bonding bill. The last round was the housing bonds that everybody worked for in the affordable housing community, the housing infrastructure bonds. Those were appropriation bonds. And there's always different agency bonds. It's not a big pool, but it's not. And in fact, MPCA has often gone out for appropriation bonds as the agency to make requests directly to the governor. And I think we're going to want to have Commissioner Laura Bishop, Kurt Kudelka, and others pitching to Governor Walz along with us and the senior advisors and all of you that the right approach, even within the governor's team, should be agency bonds through the MPCA at a higher interest rate. But it's very marginal. I wouldn't want to quote the percentage and then be wrong.
Okay, so it's not, it really shouldn't be a showstopper to mention appropriation bonds. Okay. Well, another question I have for someone who might know is, what is the community opinion today of moving this material over to the waste management site? Because I know that when that hearing came up, I was surprised at the negative reaction from that, because they didn't want to have another Buck Hill that close to the river. So is there a way to get around that neighborhood objection, or the objection to the another 300 feet or whatever it is on top of the present pile there?
Senator Carlson, you're talking about moving all of the waste from the freeway over to the waste management site.
Yes.
Correct. Well, what they will see from us is that there is a plan on what that would look like, and it would be a park. And we have done some research, and Virginia Beach has a wonderful park that they have developed that looks very much like what ours is going to look like, but it had a great amenity with trails and different kind of park amenities for the site. So it's not going to look horrible over on the waste management side. But you know, those are some of the things we have been looking at what do we do with that, with what that hill, but it's not going to look like what Bloomington had displayed because that was an exaggeration, we believe. But when you really look at what it's going to look like and the end use to that presented in terms of the vision of what that could be, I think people will like what it's going to look like.
Okay, good.
It's
Yes.
not going to just be a hill. It will be an amenity, a park amenity. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Bloomington is also being part of this too. I mean, I have to say that, some of the properties that are over there that are under the landfill, they still are in the title is held by the Burnsville Amphitheater. And that brings,
this is the reason why I said it's layered, because McGowan owns all of that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
And
does his
it's
father.
also an issue with what used to be the amphitheater site, because not only Mike McGowan, but his brother Mark also says that he has an ownership to that particular site as well.
Yes.
So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be unraveled in that regard.
Yeah, and from what I understand, they still have not settled his father's estate, because some of it is listed in his father's name yet too.
Yeah, so that's why I said at the end of the day, a lot of this is going to come down to the McGowan family.
Yes.
And there's a McGowan trust also on top of all of that.
Okay. And then we're always talking about the dump as well as the landfill.
That's right.
The same solution.
They're both included in the proposal. Yes, Senator.
Yeah, good.
Okay, is there anything else? I just want to understand from our legislators. Do you all have any questions with regard to our fire prevention district? Because I think, Melanie, I think is this the third year we're going out that it's on our priority?
At least the third year, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, if I may, could I just suggest, I know Councilmember Schultz had her hand up, but we have our county commissioner.
I don't see her. She must have taken her hand down.
She was waving a physical hand, but we do have Commissioner Workman from Dakota County. And before we get off the whole landfill subject, because it is kind of all encompassing, she might want to say a few words. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Liz, but you are now.
Okay.
Yeah, you did. Thanks, Dan.
Sorry.
Welcome, Commissioner Workman. I see both you and Cullen need some light. She too is in a cave.
I like it dark. Dan, what are you looking for?
Well, just maybe inject, obviously we have our city lobbyist present and all of these newly elected and our returning elected officials. It might be worth hearing from, the person who represents all of Burnsville on the Dakota County Board and the Dakota County, and I guess your perspective and your position on the landfill cleanup ideas, the MPCA's proposals, and what you would like to see.
Well, okay. So the county hasn't taken a formal position yet. I'm sure we will. But I support everything that Burnsville is asking for. I support the dig and haul. I support the expansion of the approval of the certificate of need for waste management, because without that expansion into their landfill, the garbage can't be moved. That is the cheapest route, is to just move it from freeway over to waste management. I think the MPCA is standing in the way of getting this done and getting this done the correct way. this is very public, but I don't trust the MPCA. I just don't, because I attended that council meeting where they presented 3 options, none of which were supported by the Burnsville City Council. And I think the only way to improve this situation and make sure that the water maintains the higher quality is to haul it out of there, not to dig in line. I know that's more expensive, but at the end of the day, you will have an area that is developable, that the land can be put to a higher and best use, and everybody benefits from it, the state, the county, and the city. So I do not support the dig and line. I've always been a fan of the dig and haul, and that mound that they showed would be taller than Buck Hill. I'm sorry, I have 3 dogs and they have decided to fight as I'm starting to speak, so I apologize. But yeah, Dan, you know me, I've always supported the dig and haul.
Yeah. Well, because you noted it, I just want to close out that dig and haul across one commercial property line where the trucks don't even get on public roads. And that proposal also had a conveyor belt system, which would be turned into a future pedestrian bridge to bring it from the dump across I-35. That's the dig and haul that has the low price tag. That one's going to probably be on par with, if not slightly lower than, the cheapest dig and line option. So it's the most viable. All the other dig and haul that they presented, you know, the cost goes from 100 million, say, to 4 to 5 or 700 million if it's got to be hauled a long distance. So that takes those dig and hauls off the table. And
well, they can't haul it. They can't haul it to Red Wing, that
Right.
new facility. They're at capacity. They
Right.
can't take it to Inver Grove Heights. They're in a similar situation as Waste Management. So they would have to take it to Wisconsin or Iowa,
Right.
which, you know, doesn't do much for our carbon footprint as far as, you know, hauling garbage and diesel trucks, or, you know, I know
Right.
that it could be clean trucks as well, but it makes no sense. So to me, the best option is to give Waste Management that certificate of need, allow the expansion. They have a cell already there that could handle the garbage from the landfill and the dump. And I also believe that once they move the garbage out of the dump, you could see good small development starting within 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to see if our newly elected would like to comment and ask any questions. So Representative-elect Kayla.
Hi, thank you. I don't know that I have any questions after meeting with you and also Melanie and Ann, and having discussed it. I have a pretty good idea of what we're talking about here, and I have stated that I support the dig and haul option. I think for all the reasons that we've talked about, and specifically trying to get this done as quickly as possible to mitigate any chance of poisoning our water and having to, you know, make greater efforts in terms of solving that issue. And I don't think that that benefits anybody. And so hopefully we can move the MPCA to move forward on this. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative-elect Jess.
Yeah, similarly to what Kayla said, I've learned a lot and been listening really closely throughout the campaign about these issues. As many of you know, I come from a place where I value community-centered leadership, and I believe that my job as an elected official is to amplify the voice of this community. So that's what I plan to do, make sure we can go there. I live right across the street from both of the landfills, and so I know that over on this side of Burnsville and into Savage, you know, on a day with the strong winds, we know the dump is there. So we support the dig and move plan as well. And so we want to get that taken care of. The way that I plan to advocate for this, a couple of ways. I talk about this as a catastrophic environmental emergency that we need to continue to address as soon as possible. So I'll continue to kind of have that high level you know, urgency to it, because I think creating that urgency is something that we need to continue to see. And then as far as the TIF bill goes, my number one committee that I requested was taxes so that we can continue to keep this moving. These are a big lift in the legislature, and I'm aware of that. And so I think this is going to be something that we can continue to work on because it is really important. As a child, I went to Burnsville Center on every couple of weekends. And so it's a really important place just to me personally and to my family and obviously to the community as well. So I hope that we can continue to see what comes next for that land, and I'm really excited about it. So hopefully that excitement carries through in both the advocacy and the storytelling that we're going to do to move these things forward. And I'm interested in learning more about the fire prevention district. I have to be honest, I haven't heard a ton about this. And so I'm interested in continuing to hear about that and talk to some more colleagues about what that looks like. So thank you again for having me today. I always give everyone my cell phone number at these things. If anyone on the call doesn't have it, I'll put it in the chat here for panelists. If there's anyone watching that's not on the panel, feel free to reach out and happy to connect. Thanks again.
And Representative-elect Jess, you know, our fire chief is here this evening also, and you probably might want to reach out to him and he can talk to you more about what that fire district is all about and why it's important for us. And it's the third time that we are going to the legislature to get this authority. Okay, great. I'm going to go to Senator-elect Lindsay Fort and then back to Senator Carlson. Yes.
Yeah, again, just thank you for taking the time. I think I've met with many of you on several of these things multiple times, so I'm looking forward to get to work on it. And I'm certain I will be continuing to call you and get your input and your help.
Thank you. Senator Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I want to talk to the new legislators as well here on one of the areas that we didn't necessarily dig into, and that's the issue of local control. Mayor Kautz and the council here has been the leaders on local control. If you ever need advice on local control, you don't even need to ask. You'll get it because the mayor, you know, I remember the fight we had with 5G back a few years ago, that there's lots of things that come up. And when you need to know just exactly what local control means, you can ask the mayor because she is always up on it and knows what she's talking about. And it's not like it's something that that you won't necessarily disagree with. You'll agree with her. And I've found that too, because local control, you know, generally we always say, yeah, we like to have local control, but then all of a sudden we'll try to do something that's supersedes local control. But I have to say that Mayor Kautz has been very consistent on having local control. And she is a person that we can go to, and she will explain to us exactly why we should support local control. And I have always found it to be very well-founded and very, very good advice. And it's sometimes hard to get from other people just why you want that local control. So this is a, how can I say, it's a model of local control. Burnsville is.
Yeah, thank you. Jim, thank you so much. And one of the things that I don't know if anybody else wants to speak, but I want to say thank you to our representative-elects and our senator-elect, and also to our veteran legislators, Senator Carlson and Representative Mason. Just hearing the passion from Jess and Lindsay and Kayla about what Burnsville needs, I am so happy to know that you all have connected also with Ann, and that you'll be educated and that you can help. I'm also very happy to hear, Lindsay, that you have already connected with Senator Rest. And because Jim, you know that we have been working with her on all of these issues, and Ann and I also talked about, she's not really a TIF-friendly person, but it's good to know that she is on board with our TIF. So I'm really looking forward to a big win with that this year. And Sandy, you have carried that water, and now you have Kayla and Jess who will help, and their voices are big. I hear them saying they're going to amplify it and they're going to work the House of Representative, and also Jess, you requested the tax committee, right? You go, girl. Because that'll be great. So thank you so much. I don't know, Melanie, staff, are there any thoughts? Members of the legislature?
And no, Madam Mayor and Council, I just wanted to echo the appreciation to our representative and senators for taking the time tonight. It's been a pleasure to meet all of you, and I look forward to working with you. And as Senator Carlson said, we are always here to help provide context and feedback on any bills that you might be seeing. So feel free to use our phone numbers and our emails, and we're happy to work together. So thanks so much for your time this evening. Appreciate your service.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to Ann, Cullen, and Angela for being here. And thank you just for your mobile number. So we'll connect. I think I have your mobile number, but I don't know if it's the right one. But and now that you put it up, I will check my contact information and see if it's the correct one. With that, I want to thank you all for coming and talking with us. This has been a wonderful exchange and a sharing of thoughts and information. And it feels to me like a true collaborative moving forward to accomplish the things for Burnsville and for our shared constituency. So thank you so much to our legislators. And thank you to our lobbyists, to Ann and Cullen and the team for the work that you'll be doing for us. I look forward to a win to bring home, and not only for the shopping center, but also this year and next year with the landfill. And I hope that if you have any questions with regard to the Fire Prevention District, please reach out to Melanie and Chief BJ Jungman. They'll have all of the information for you to help educate you into why this is very important. With that, we thank you. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Thank you, and to you all.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we will move on to the next item on our agenda. And the next item on our agenda is Fire Station 1 Replacement Project Update. And presenting this evening is Garrett Beck, our Parks and Recreation and Facilities Director. Garrett, this is up to you. This is there's no action. This is an update.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and to everyone who's joining us remotely this evening. Tonight, I'll be joined by City Staff, Fire Chief BJ Jungman, Deputy City Manager Greg Lindberg, from Kraus Anderson, Dale Sonicson, and Jason Rentmeester, our construction manager on the project, and then Quinn Hudson and Brooke Jacobson, who are part of our of CNH Architects. Together, we'll be providing an update on Fire Station 1 replacement project. Just a brief history for those who may be hearing about this project for the first time. In 2015, we did a facility study, and that study determined that the existing fire station, which was constructed in 1976, had reached its end of life. Basically, when a building is labeled that, it's recommended that you don't invest a significant amount of dollars in it any further. So at that point, staff started looking at the replacement process for Fire Station 1. And in 2019, we assembled our team, which included members from a variety of city departments, our construction manager, Kraus Anderson, and CNH Architects. During the first 9 months of the project, our team has updated the community and city council on how the project's been going. One of those meetings was in January of 2020, and then again in June of 2020. We were able to host a groundbreaking ceremony for the community in August of 2020, and then the construction kicked off in September of this year. Next slide, please. So with that history, I would like to turn things over to Dale Sonicson of Krause Anderson, and he's going to share how the construction project has been going for the first 3.5 months of the project, and then talk about our schedules and milestones of things that will be coming up, along with any challenges that we have either encountered so far or things that we just need to be aware of as potential challenges down the road. Dale.
Thanks, Garrett. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to give you this construction update. Next slide, please. We have a video that we'd like to share. So if we can get back to the video. Starting with the groundbreaking in August. This is kind of a compilation of what we've been doing out there. Since the groundbreaking, we have had our grading and earthwork operations going. We have exported over 30,000 cubic yards of soil off-site. That, to paint a picture, is the equivalent of over 2,000 truckloads of material, excuse me, that have been hauled off-site. We've also constructed the retaining walls that you see in the background. There's over 1,000 lineal feet of retaining wall, over 8,000 of the large blocks, 2 foot wide and 2.5 foot high. We've been able to get in the foundations, the concrete footings and foundations, as well as the basement walls that you can see right there. Coming up, we've installed the underground plumbing through the deep underground plumbing through the building. In addition, we've done the site utilities, including a 10,000 gallon rainwater harvest tank that's currently buried in the ground. The masonry walls that you see there were built to accept the precast floor plank for, in this view, the mezzanine, the training mezzanine, as well as over the basement area that is the storm shelter. And as we move forward, the masonry walls will continue. You can see the scaffolding there. And that masonry will go up to be ready for steel. If we could get to the next slide, please. So some upcoming milestones. Again, the structural steel is scheduled to be delivered right before Christmas. That will be the bonework, if you will, for the 2-story area, as well as the roof structure for the apparatus bays. Following that, in the next several months, once the steel is up, we'll be working on the building envelope enclosure, the walls, the windows, the roof system. And as we get into spring, we'll be pouring the concrete floors, both in the apparatus bay and in the 2-story area. Next slide, please. So every project, every construction project has its challenges or opportunities, whichever you'd prefer to call them. One of those items is unforeseen conditions, but I'd like to just give you the update and report that most of the times you see unforeseen conditions, it's when you're digging in the ground. Well, we're already through the ground and coming out of the ground, and we have not found any conditions that we didn't foresee up front. And so I'm happy to report that that's not a challenge for us right now. Also, winter construction is always a potential challenge. You know, from year to year, you never know what you're going to get, how much snow, what the temperatures are like. We're really poised well at this point for doing work that winter doesn't cause us to lose a lot of time and effort. So erecting structural steel can go on whether it's cold or snowing. And so we're hopeful that we won't have too many disruptions due to winter. The only caveat I make to that is that our roof material is actually an adhered membrane and it is somewhat temperature sensitive. So depending on when we're ready to put that down, we might have to hold off until we have temperatures that are conducive to the glue setting up. And kind of new this time around for a construction project is any COVID disruptions. That could include labor disruption or disruption of getting long lead materials. So far this year, we have not had any material delays due to COVID. We have had an event on site with the masonry crew, and we did lose that crew for about 2 weeks, the week before and during Thanksgiving, but we're steadily working to mitigate that that disruption, and we're back on track, or we'll be back on track for our steel. So next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. That was the last of mine. If there's any questions, either now or at the end, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, Greg can take over for budget.
Okay, I don't
Madam
see.
Mayor, I just have one question. Sorry, I
didn't see your hand up.
Yeah,
but-
well, I didn't do the click hand, and then I realized my whole screen's taken up by this presentation. I'm not even sure you could see me if I raise my hand, but I just had only one quick question. Where did all of that dirt that was removed, where was it repurposed to? If it was good fill dirt or if it was not?
It was good material, very, very useful material that the low excavating contractor was able to utilize on a project that they had near Prior Lake. And so it was not a very long haul for them. And that the ability to use that soil that close resulted in a favorable, very favorable bid for the city.
Wonderful. I know our city manager and mayor and Dan Gustafson are aware of properties in our river quadrant that have been remediating soil issues so they could one day develop. And I'm curious if all of those properties have been remediated and the soil wasn't needed in Burnsville, or maybe we didn't have an arrangement with those property owners to be able to take some of this.
You know, I think Ryan probably can answer that, but remember, Dan K, the hospital, when the hospital was building over in that side, and also Park Nicollet, a lot of that dirt was taken down there. So I don't know, but perhaps Ryan can, and it was all used up on the Asselford site and also in Park Jeep.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be great if we could say we actually don't need any more good fill dirt in the river quadrant, at least for the properties that had peat issues and soil issues. That's good news. I wasn't aware that we had, gotten to that point. Let's put it that way, but it'd be good to know. Thank you.
Either Jenny or Ryan might have that information. I don't know. Jenny, yeah. Did we get Park Jeep and the Asselfords with all of the materials from 5 and 13 and from Fairview Ridges?
I would say no, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Asselford properties, they didn't remediate everything. And so there are still some soil needs there. I do know that for certain.
Okay, good. Then there's an opportunity for some dirt to go to the Asselford property.
Madam Mayor, it makes your contracting much more difficult if you're prescribing the location. And then especially, if we own the site, it's one thing, but if we don't own it and are prescribing the receiving location, it makes the contract a much more challenging situation. There could be all kinds of things that we can't control on the private property.
Okay, makes sense. And probably some liability issues as well.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And certainly it's worth saying we probably had those, but overcame all those years ago. I remember when City Manager Ebling was actually was around when we first started that remediation process. We figured out a way to team up and partner and figure out a way help them remediate the soil when we had dirt we needed to get rid of. And this is a classic example. If we have extra dirt we don't need, and we've figured out a way to get it done. I would hope that we continue to do that kind of work to keep that soil in Burnsville to help those properties remediate and redevelop, because that's going to help the city with increased property taxes if they could put a building on it, and they can't do that with bad soil. So I think this may be, in my mind, I think this was a missed opportunity. We should have kept some of that dirt in Burnsville.
Yeah, I think Jenny and Ryan, at the time with the Asselford, if I remember correctly, Jenny Asselford was ready to look at a developer on that site. And so we did some work with Asselford on I don't know how many acres remediated.
You're correct, Madam Mayor, and they still are continuing to do some remediation at Asselford with Dale Green and the soil operations that is still out there. But they only remediated parts of their property, and so the current we're in discussions with some recent developers on Asselford site, and both of them have mentioned soil corrections that are needed on site where they want to put their building pads. And so where they want to put their pads may very well be different than what was anticipated 10 years ago.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe for top of mind to really still for staff to know that there's still properties that we can that they need remediation, and have that kind of discussion. And so when we have projects, you know, and they need dirt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council.
Yeah.
I think, Greg, are you handling the next item? If there's no further questions?
Certainly. Quick update on the budget, Mayor and Council. Luckily, all good news for you this evening. As you're well aware, several weeks ago, you approved bonding for the project, $18.6 million in bonding. As you'll recall, the project will be funded out of the facilities fund, source of funding being our franchise fees. The project currently is well under budget. We're estimating about $1 million under budget at this point in time. So we're on track for an efficient and effective budget for the project. We do have about $600,000 in construction contingency planned in the budget. To date, we've used about $100,000 of that contingency. As Dale had mentioned, the most concerning portion of the project would be soil corrections. We've gotten past that point. Concrete is in the ground and we're starting to come out of the ground. So all good news when it comes to that. You might recall that your AAA bond rating was affirmed as part of the bonding for this project, and in the COVID environment, part of the silver lining of what has been a difficult year, as Dale had mentioned, was a very, very favorable bid environment for the project. So again, we are exceeding $1 million under budget at this point in time, and anticipate that will continue through the project as contingencies are continuing to look strong. With that, I certainly can answer any questions that you might have. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the next slide and BJ to talk a little bit about the engagement process.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Keeley has a question.
A comment. I don't know how many times we've had a project of this size with a budget report early on even, but just that is that positive. Thank you, Greg and Melly. That's really good. You know, these are projects where that contingency usually gets eaten up over time, and to go in and to say that we're $1 million under is fantastic news. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Who's the next presenter from staff on this one, on the community engagement? Are you guys moving on to the fire station placemaking, or is this the community engagement with regard to fire?
Madam Mayor, we have Fire Chief BJ Jungman to talk about the community engagement for the fire station project, and then we'll move over to the placemaking.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Again, thanks for the time tonight. It's an exciting project. As you can see, we've got a great team, both with city staff, CNH, and Cross Anderson, working on this, and the project is going very, very well. I think we've had a great opportunity to share with the public, even through COVID, the great progress and the great design that we have. And our website has been a great way to do that. If you haven't been there, I'd encourage you to go to burnsvillemn.gov/firebuild, or the long website right down below there. And there's a Spark page, it's called, in there. And Dale showed you some of the drone video from earlier, but every month there's drone footage being put up on there, and progress slides. There's the blueprints or the schematic design for the station. There's videos of what it'll look like, as we've shown you before. So it's a great way to track the progress and really see what's going on out there. And it's, I'm very proud of the site that's up there, and the communication we've had, both with you and with the public, and the great team that we have. Looking forward, believe it or not, we're gonna have to start planning for a grand opening, which is very exciting. So we see that as another great opportunity to invite the community in and show them this great project and the great asset that the community will have for many years to come. So we're starting the planning process in the very infancy stages, but we expect that to be a very grand event that will invite many, many stakeholders too, as well as the community, to show them this beautiful project and really a state-of-the-art design that'll be functional for many years, and will keep our firefighters safe and healthy. So with that, I will turn it back over to Garrett, unless there's any questions.
I don't see anybody having any questions. So Garrett.
Yeah, so thanks, BJ and council. That is our presentation for this evening. We will continue to have regular updates through our normal communication processes, as BJ talked about. At least once a month, the Spark page will be updated with major milestones and interesting videos. Once we get inside and the walls are up and the roof is on, the drone flyovers don't become as exciting. So we'll move indoors and let people start to see what's happening inside those walls. So just excited to be a part of this team, to have this project, to be able to share it tonight. And I just appreciate everyone's support along the way.
Okay, Garrett, Greg, BJ, and Dale, thank you so much for a great presentation, and thank you for the update. Great work. We really appreciate all that you do and the updates that you give us. So thank you so much. So we'll move on then to the fire station placemaking.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. As if that wasn't fun enough, we have more fun for you tonight. And that does deal with the placemaking at the fire station. Just to give you a little background of this, this project is part of the fire station budget. We engaged ISG to help us do some community engagement and come up with the conceptual design as part of phase 1. So we have $77,300 left for construction. And tonight we're looking for direction from you on which concept is preferred. And there are a couple options that are within budget. And then we have for you an enhanced option that really encapsulates a lot more of the features that we heard from our community. As Greg noted, the Fire Station 1 project is under budget. So should you choose to go for the enhanced option, that certainly can be absorbed with the cost savings for the overall project. And with that, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I will turn it over to Amanda Prosser and Mitch Workman from ISG to walk through the concepts with you.
Okay, very good. Amanda and Mitch, the Zoom is yours.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. So I'm Mitch Workman. I'm with ISG Landscape Architect, and I will be doing the bulk of the presentation, and Amanda Prosser with ISG is on the line as well. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. If we could go to the next slide, please. So just wanted to quickly go over the agenda on what we're going to go through in this presentation. We're going to first hit the public engagement. We're going to summarize what we heard. We're going to tell about the story and kind of what, taking the engagement and how we formed up that story. We're going to go through the design process, which then led us to the concepts that we're going to show tonight, the more polished renderings. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with the cost estimates. So if you go to next slide, please. The public engagement process was a multifaceted approach. We had in-person large group type of events, such as the groundbreaking, where we solicited info from the public. as well as the puppy parade and a couple other events with the city of Burnsville, like I think the drive-in movies as well. We also did an online engagement push where we had a social pinpoint website. Particularly with COVID, this was a great opportunity for people who maybe weren't going to be at these events or didn't feel comfortable to provide information. We also had a stakeholder event that was a little more intimate, small group, where we could hear some of those stories and really help to develop our project story. And we also had a staff meeting where we got to hear some thoughts from staff. So all of that combined is what you're seeing on this page, with the imagery that we showed and what was preferred, as well as some quotes. And we boiled it down to these 4 bullet points here. And summarizing everything we heard from the different groups was we wanted it to be an intimate space. So not just an add-on or a piece of art that just kind of plops on the side of a sidewalk. We want it to be an intimate space, kind of as shown in the top left. We want it to be iconic, so similar to the cherry and the spoon, something that people can see from far away or will immediately pick up as they're walking in. We want it to tell a story, and we want it to be inviting. And staff wanted to be sure that equity, inclusion, and the diversity of needs was met in this project, and we appreciate those comments. And so this is kind of what we took. This was the bulk of our information that we used to put the designs together. And before we flip to the next slide, I just wanted to highlight at the top there, that was our website statistics. We had a little over 1,100 total visits from a little over 300 unique users, and they filled out about 70 survey responses. So between the in-person engagement and the website engagement, we had a lot of good input from the public. Next slide, please. The story. So that's the story is something that we use to help ground our design. And I'm just going to read straight from it. What we came up with is what separates firefighters from other first responders is the tools, knowledge, and strength to conquer fires. This project expresses the fluidity and beauty of water, representing how firefighters harness the power of water from hydrant to hose to ladder. The design provides a space for community and firefighters alike to gather and share stories in a setting that artfully represents the movements, materials, and meaning of the firefighting profession. So this is what the design team used, what we were trying to put into the design, and then all the little pieces will help tell the story of what the public wanted, and we'll get into those details here in a moment. Next slide, please. So the design process started off with us providing 3 different preliminary concepts for city staff to review. All the art and all of the pieces of emotion were more white, simple. We didn't want to provide too much in these initial concepts, and what we really wanted to get through was how do we want to shape the space? What is the main pieces of the design that we want to come through, and what do we want to people to remember when they go to this space? Concept 1, preliminary concept 1 at the top left there was chosen as the preferred concept to move forward with and to develop further. Some of the pieces from this are a vertical element, fluid ground plane and fluid seating, as well as a mural and a couple other little tidbits from the other concepts that will combine to what we'll call our preferred concept. And that's what we ran with. So next slide, please. So what we have here is a series of 2 concepts, concept 1, concept 2, and an enhanced plan that combines elements from concept 1 and concept 2. And as noted, concept 1 and concept 2 are in budget, and the enhanced plan is a little bit above budget. Concept 1, Brett, what you see is a fluid movement of a hose around the site. It's not an actual fire hose, but that is the main element that moves from the hydrant and goes around the different seating elements of the site. That hose is a perforated metal hose that would have internal lighting that serpentines through the landscape, representing the movement and power of water. The hydrant feature itself is an elevated feature that would have a push button activation for kids and different visitors to push and have a mister come out the top as an interactive element. And then the curved seating elements that you see there are to provide nice outdoor seating opportunities. They're quite large and kind of help shape the space. And then as we get through a few more slides, we'll also see some of the details in those benches. And then finally, the mural on the wall is a Dalmatian, very representative of the firefighting history. And the thought there for the Dalmatian is to actually use boot prints from the firefighters to help make that mural on the wall, and to put a little bit of the people that really make the space what it is, the firefighters, into the project. So if we go to the next slide, please, we'll see another view here. Ground level, you can get a better view of what the hydrant feature looks like. You can see there on the back of the bench, we have the "You Belong Here," as well as you can see just a little bit on the bench there that we would actually put a timeline feature on the back of the bench to help explain some of the history of firefighting in Burnsville and add an extra layer of detail into the story. So if you go to the next slide, that you can see, there you go, you can see the bench back with the years there, and we would have some details in there. And then you can see a little bit better the push button activation there for the children. Next slide, please. And then finally, we have this view shown at night, and we would have spotlighting or uplighting on the mural on the wall. We would be sure that that hose would help light the bench and serpentine through the landscape as well. So that is concept 1. So we'll go ahead and move to concept 2. Concept 2, the benches, the flat work or the concrete walks, and the mural are all the same. What we've changed from the 2 concepts is we've added a ladder feature, that iconic ladder feature, to help tell the story and remove the hydrant and serpentine hose feature. So if you go to the next slide, please, we can see that a little better from a pedestrian view. So in this concept, the idea is a ladder that has a fluid curvature to it to help represent the water, but it would also have a light or an internal lighting feature that would be able to dim and brighten to give that illusion of it being filled with water. And the panels on the front and in between ladder rungs would also have a lighting element, or they would be transparent so that the light could kind of shine through. If you go to the next slide, so this is the same view from the other concept, the seating nook here. Nothing would change in this concept. And then if you flip back, you can see a little bit of our vision on what the night scene could be. Or sorry, if you flip to the next slide. So same idea, we would have the Dalmatian lit with uplighting, and then the ladder sculpture itself would be lit, but there would not be that serpentine feature around to help light. And then the enhanced concept, we've essentially combined the ladder feature and the hydrant and serpentine hose feature into one. And the story of the water going from the hydrant to the hose to the ladder, you can see kind of in full picture here. Other than that, the same elements with the curved benches and the mural apply to this one as well. So if you want, you can flip through to the next slide. So you can see the relationship of the hydrant and the ladder, the scale there with those 2 combined. And then if you flip to the next slide, same thing for this seating nook. And then the last slide for the renderings is how it could all interact when it's lit. If you go to the next slide, please. This is a detailed plan just to call out all the different elements in reference what we've talked about in case if there's something that you need to look at more closely. But this is in CAD, and we do have this to help fit this into the larger fire station project with some direction to move forward with one of these concepts. Next slide, please. Taking a look at some of the materials and products, the seating is a link bench from Forms and Surfaces. That is a standard product that we are going to have an artist add that timeline element to the back of, or the backrest. We have standard concrete walks, medium broom finish. We've got the seating central feature. That's something that is to be determined around the curved bench on what that centerpiece is, whether it's a table or there's a chest top on it for games or something of that sorts. The landscaping is what is in the base project for the fire station. It's just reallocated based on the new design. So we still have the ornamental grasses, the Grollo sumac, those are elements from the base project. And we've just added a few ornamental grasses in that middle feature where the ladder rests. Other than that, it's the same as the base project. Lighting, we've had the LED color changing when the ladder sculpture, as well as the strip lighting if we go with the hose route. And then just showing some of the ideas for the perforated metal, like if we were to go with the hose, perforations could be done in a number of different ways, and how that could be add unique detail to the project. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is a snapshot of the three concepts, or sorry, of the two concepts and the enhanced concept, showing concept 1 and concept 2 just under that 77,300 budget, showing the different elements and what's included in those various concepts, and then showing the enhanced concept, including, I guess, all of the elements, if you will. And then the final couple slides we have here are the full breakdowns of the estimate in case if we needed to look at anything specific, showing where we came with our construction costs, contingencies, and standard fees for the total cost. And then a few things to note in these cost estimates is that the credits from a base project are not included if we were to update some of the light bollards, sod, any irrigation, and what our estimate is for that at $2,100. So if you flip to the next slide, or there you go, the final slide, you can see the total enhanced, or the enhanced version at $112,750. That is the end of our presentation, and I know it's a little challenging with being digital. So if there's any questions or if I missed any hands or anything, be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, members of the council, any questions? And I think tonight staff wants some feedback with, concept 1, concept 2, or concept 3. And so, and one of the things that we also heard that we're under budget. And so when we take a look at these different concepts, your thoughts?
Councilmember Workman has his hand raised, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, Vince Workman.
Thank you. What is this a shift from what we've already discussed that we approved previously?
We didn't.
Did we not review this part of the courtyard and kind of give a blessing to what we liked?
Yeah, Jenny?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Workman, you have not approved a specific plan. We went out for RFP for placemaking consultants and then worked through phase 1, which was to get to this point. So we're looking for your direction. We plan to bring a supplemental agreement to you in January that has the preference for your design and the budget considerations as a next.
I think what you saw, Vince, is that on our one-on-one with Melanie, she showed these concepts to us.
Mm. So is this is already built into the existing budget, what we've just reviewed?
Yeah.
So this is all accounted for already. This isn't new money.
Madam Mayor, if I could. Councilmember Workman, we when we were formulating the idea of the fire station project, placemaking was one of the guiding principles that we wanted to have into it. And at that time, having not really gone through something like this before, there was an agreement that we would go forward with a $100,000 budget out of the $18.6 million that we could put out there as a starting point to figure out what placemaking would look like at this location. So that's what we've been, when Mitch showed the different concepts, there was a fee associated with hiring ISG to go through the community engagement piece to do this design work. And then the remaining funds that you saw in the presentation were what get us from that initial fee through construction up to that $100,000 placeholder that we put in for this project.
Okay. I just maybe needed a refresher.
Okay.
I had a joke about 3 workmans in one meeting being too many, but he spells his with an O, so that
Yeah.
one didn't work. I guess if usually when we go through these, it's good, better, best, and I tend to fall kind of in the middle, better option, not going too gratuitous. So I liked the middle option with the latter being probably the average cost.
So you like the 77? That's,
Yeah, middle.
yeah, okay. Next, Councilmember Schultz.
So my preference, and I have expressed this to Melanie in our one-on-ones as well, is I do not have a preference for which one. I would prefer that the firefighters who are going to be there express their preference, and whatever they pick that is what I would like to see happen.
Okay, Dan Gustafson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I like concept number 1, and I think that is the middle of the road one at 77. Is it not?
Yeah. That's it.
I like that. It looks really nice. It's under budget, under the $100,000 budget. So once again, we'll stay under our budget. I know we're $1 million down now. Being down another 25 or 30 doesn't hurt. Anything can happen between now and next year, I can tell you that. So I like the number 1 concept plan.
Okay, Councilmember Keeley.
I would agree, and although I think the ladder is indicative of the fire hoses too, and the ladder has always bothered me as something that may, even though it's going to have some shielding, that kids and or adults might want to try and climb. And so I think number 1 being under cost, and I actually think it's a better design. I will agree with Councilmember Schultz. I'd really like to hear the input of the firefighters that are going to live at the station and let them input. Because if they were to say, we love the one with the ladder more than anything, then I'd go with that one. I don't know what they're interested in, or they like.
BJ still here?
Yeah, before BJ gives his remarks, one of the things that I also want to remember, that this is a community placemaking, and that we had gone out to the community and asked for their input. And the whole concept when we talked about placemaking and also for this fire station is a place where our residents can come and really learn about what our firefighters do, to get into that story, to understand what water does, to understand what how the ladder is. What I do like, I also like the concept 1 that is 77 and it's still within budget, is that it also has some lighting and that gives that feel of water flowing through those tubes. I do like the ladder, but if you put the ladder and all of the other elements that are in concept 1 and you go to the 112,000, I think the ladder adds that gives it a little bit more of that cost. You have the ladder and the water on all of that. But I think if you look at what the community had said, this gives the community a place to come and sit. And it also gives education for the children. It also is a serenity place, it seems like to me. If you come in and you don't have children, there's a place to just be there. It's a very comfortable place to be, you know, but let's hear from BJ. What do you think the firefighters, what was their choice, Chief?
Madam Mayor and Council, you know, I don't know. We haven't necessarily shown them all of these concepts. They were involved early on when we, there were, I think, 4 or 5 of them that came to the public input meeting. We invited a handful of them to represent each shift in that. So I don't know that we've run all 3 of these concepts by them. I'd be happy to do that and provide feedback. I'd hate to speak on behalf of all of them tonight without formally getting their input and seeing what their thoughts are given these new images.
Yeah, well, the consensus is the concept 1 is the concept that the majority of the council says. But we, you know, that's contingent on also hearing from the firefighters. Kara.
There we go. Exactly. Yeah, for I really do think that we should hear from them. You know, and I get what you're saying about this being a community placemaking area, but I think the people probably most able to tell us what it's like to be a firefighter and how to communicate that message to the public is our firefighters. So while it is geared towards the community, I think their input would be valuable. And I mean, frankly, I just want to give them the decision. I want them to have some control over destiny on this. Whichever concept they pick is the one that we can then come back and adopt, or, you know, whatever.
So Chief, what I'm hearing is that let's hear from the firefighters as well. But everybody knows the one that each of us said would be the most ideal, the concept 1. But let's hear from the firefighters and what their thoughts are.
Madam Mayor, Jenny Faulkner's running she's the lead on this project, and she did have her hand raised, so.
Yeah, I see that, Melanie. Jenny?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Appreciate the direction. We certainly can get input from our firefighting staff. That's not a problem, but I want to make sure, are you okay if they pick the one that's over budget, or do you want them to just choose? I need clear direction here, just between 1 and 2. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, and you know what, Jenny, that is a valid question. And the thing is, we do have, we're under budget, so there's some money. So is everybody, let me ask, is everybody okay if they come back and they say, we like concept 3? I see Kara nodding her head. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. If the firefighters come and they say they like concept 3, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I would
okay with
like
it.
to comment on this is an area, and I know that, you know, dial way back to the beginning after the mayor and I were on a trip down in Texas. I had, you know, brought forth an idea that we didn't pursue, but it was that particular idea was based on having a building that would have some training classroom so kids could come through, and so a very, very open and public place. And it was actually sponsored by all of the companies that were in that town. So I don't know how much the taxpayers paid of that part, because there was a wall full of plaques of participating sponsored companies that were supporting this public safety, public access classroom and, you know, experience for kids and stuff. So, you know, I appreciate that we went in the direction of putting some public space, usable space, integrating into this new, but I think we maybe, you know, could have reached back, you know, back in 2019 before COVID, right? reached out to all of our companies that deal with public safety, that want to support public safety, and they may have actually helped us offset the cost of this whole public space to its entirety in exchange for a plaque that would have their name on it that they have contributed to this. So, you know, we have one already, right? We have the person who sold us the land. But I think it's, I don't have a problem if the firefighters pick the more expensive one. The difference isn't that dramatic as a one-time capital expense. This is not an ongoing annual expense. This is one time and it's in place. But I do feel remiss that we missed out on an opportunity back in 2019 to reach out to our community for community partnerships and sponsors of this public space.
Okay, it appears that there's consensus if the firefighters go with concept 3. We're going with concept 3. Jenny? Do you have
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I'll bring this back to you on a consent item with whichever one they choose as a supplemental agreement with ISG then sometime in January.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, team, Jenny, everybody, for ISG. Thank you, Mitch and Amanda. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your help. And we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Appreciate it.
Okay, very good.
Elizabeth, can we take 5 minutes?
Pardon me?
Can we take 5 minutes, please?
Yes, we can. Okay, we will recess for 5 minutes and reconvene at, let's see, Jay.
Yeah, we can reconvene in 5 minutes. That's about 7:47.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Jay.
5 minutes.
Oops, we're now reconvened. And the next item is the Dakota County Solid Waste Ordinance Update. And presenting is our Public Works Director, Ryan Peterson. And along, Ryan, are you going to introduce our guests?
Yes.
Thank
Can you
you.
hear me? Okay. The item that we talked about with the legislators and waste and all that got me thinking. From there, you could hear how important the MPCA was to getting that landfill remediated. And this has some parallels to that. The state of Minnesota through the PCA has made mandates down to the different counties in the state that they do certain things to reduce the amount of waste going to landfills. And so they've had some mandates come down to Dakota County to get things done so we can do more reuse, recycle, repurpose, that kind of thing. And then, as you can well imagine, some of that flows downhill to the city. So Dakota County has passed their Ordinance 110, which had certain things that haulers had to do, business owners had to do, as well as cities. And tonight we're here to talk about some of the things that the different cities are required to do. And one of them is to make some modifications to our ordinance related to recycling. And I'm not going to get into those details because we have the esteemed John Buck and Dave Magnuson from Dakota County Environmental to go through with those. So if you could make them available as well as the PowerPoint that they could go off of. And it's a relatively short one, so we'll try to get through this quickly.
Yeah, thank you. And this is just a report and there is no action required.
Correct. I'm looking for input tonight on anything that you'll hear, and then we would come back with an ordinance amendment in the future related to what's being discussed.
Okay, very good. So who has the Zoom floor, Dave?
Yeah, it's Dave Magnuson. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, Madam Mayor, council members, thank you for having us. My name is Dave Magnuson. I'm the Waste Regulation Supervisor at Dakota County. On the call with me is John Buck. He's my Senior Environmental Specialist, who's the lead with working with the cities. Also on the line is George Fisher, our Environmental Resources Department Director. We were, as Ryan said, we were invited to give a quick summary of our solid waste ordinance amendments that affect the municipalities, and he gave some of the background already. Minnesota law does require that the counties write a solid waste master plan that implements the MPCA's Metro Policy Plan. That plan lays out a lot of the requirements for solid waste management. One of the big requirements is that the county achieve a 75% recycling goal by 2030. That's coming up quick. Many of the master plan strategies and tactics have a regulatory component, and those were incorporated into the solid waste ordinance in November 2019. So this slide is showing the new requirements for cities that also apply to all of our commercial, schools, churches, et cetera. Basically any entity that is not a household. A recycling container is required to be paired with each trash container. That gives people an option when they're going to dispose of their waste. They have a choice between a garbage container and a recycling container. If they're not there, there's no choice and it goes in the trash. There's also standard labeling guidelines. Then these are set up to send clear message and a consistent message to all the users. All employees, whether it be city, commercial, or the county, are required to educate their employees annually on properly recycling. And there's a reporting requirement. For the cities, we're modifying your grant report so that you only have to do one report to the county. Next slide, please. The ordinance asks that the city modify and enforce your city code by the end of this year. That's coming up, but the city, Ryan, has asked for an extension. We've granted that to give you enough time to get this done. Your ordinance needs to be consistent with Ordinance 110. That's the solid waste ordinance. And an example of that is if you currently have a every other week recycling requirement in your code, that'll need to be changed to allow for weekly recycling. Weekly recycling is something that could easily end up as a requirement across all of the county. City enforcement is required under the ordinance, but to start, complaint-based responses are sufficient. We'll just have to see how it works out and go from there. You are being asked to add multifamily recycling requirements as well. These follow the same best management practices we discussed earlier: paired containers, label standards, education, etc. And finally, large event venues, which prepare food, or what we call back of house organics, will have to provide recycling as well. The existing requirements in the ordinance did not change. That the city support the master plan, ensure opportunity to recycle exists for all residents and businesses, and deliver our standardized messaging. Next slide, please. The county has resources available to assist cities with this process. We have been meeting with the city staff to provide guidance. We provided examples and links to other city code. John Buck's been the lead on that. We will be available when the time comes for regulatory assistance if needed. Cities do a lot of enforcement the way it is, so I don't know if you need any assistance from us, but we're available if it's needed. We have been reviewing draft language as the cities have been completing it and giving feedback to ensure that it's consistent with our ordinance. And of course, to present to city councils as we're doing right now. You took advantage of that one already. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed would you go back? Sorry about that. The community grants, I need to talk about that. There are community waste abatement grants, which the city of Burnsville share in 2020 was $86,700. That money is allowed to be used for developing this code language, developing and strengthening compliance and education tools, purchasing containers and other infrastructure, and I know a lot of the money goes to that. One thing this grant does not cover is the actual enforcement activities once the code or ordinance is in place. And then the county recycling programs that exist now will continue to exist, offering support for education to commercial, residential, multifamily, etc. Next slide, please. And that's short and sweet. That's all I have prepared. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them or facilitate discussion, whatever you need. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, could I?
Yeah, Brian?
Just how it affects Burnsville is they talked about the needing a recycling container by every garbage container. Right now in our parks, we started that recycling program in our 22 community parks where we get a vast majority of our recycling opportunities. So that's what our focus was. We still have the 50 some odd other ones that right now just have garbage cans, and we intend upon doing some experimenting this year with some maybe we'll just put up a sign that says bring in, bring out type of thing where there would be no garbage can, and we'll see how people do. And obviously if it results in our lawnmowers having to pick up a bunch of garbage, then that's not going to be the right solution. But we're hoping it's going to be more of that, and there may be some parks where we do put a garbage can in to match up with those or a recycling container by the garbage. So we're kind of do a mix of both. That's at least our intention, is to do some experimenting this year. They talked about the multifamily. That was already in our code, that multifamily has the opportunity to recycle. So I was worried about that to begin with, but that's already there. As Dave said, it's complaint based right now. So that was the other thing I really was concerned about, is us having to start up a program of proactive enforcement, and that's not the case. As we clearly said in the slide there, it is going to be response based. So that's the main things we discuss, or that I foresaw being how it would affect Burnsville explicitly.
Councilmember Workman.
Thank you. I just had a quick follow-up question on the gradual shift to weekly recycling pickup. I think right now is that a carrier decision? I know in my neighborhood, Waste Management is weekly, Aspen is bi-weekly. Is that going to be something that's enforced directly to those carriers, or can you maybe touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Madam Mayor, council member.
Yes.
The ordinance requirement is right now, yes, it's up to the hauler whether they offer weekly or every other week. Starting the end of 2022, if they have not excuse me, at the end of 2021, this year, start of 2022, if they have not met a 40% residential recycling rate, that's the amount we figure is needed for the residential component of the 75% overall recycling rate we feel is 40%. If an individual hauler can meet a 40% residential recycling rate, they can bow out of the weekly recycling requirement. If they cannot, though, starting January 1, 2022, they will have to offer weekly recycling, and it's by hauler, not by community or anything else.
Dave, who enforces that?
That would be the county.
Okay, so that's not on our responsibility.
No, Madam Mayor, what we need is that your city ordinance does not stand in the way of us able to do that. We have a county ordinance that says one thing and a city ordinance says something different. That'll be a legal battle that'll be difficult.
So you would like for us to be in alignment with the county?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, because I see that in our background, what our staff is saying is that we mostly meet all of the measures that you have in place, except for some of our parks where we do on a weekly basis. Ryan, that's what you're saying? That we may have to do it more often?
Yeah, like we said, our focus to date has been on our largest parks where we collect a vast majority of recyclables available to us. So we didn't invest in recycling in the smaller ones where it could be a couple bottles a week and we have to create a whole process for that. So that wasn't the focus. We had a lot of discussion on this. This is a non-starter for us as far as it relates to Dakota County ordinance. Where there is a garbage can, there needs to be recycling. That's been told to us quite clearly. So like I said, we plan on experimenting this year in the best way to handle that. If our residents are able to, how many times do you go down to the neighborhood park and bring a bunch of garbage with you and recycling? Probably not. So, if that's the case, if you're just going down there, then, honestly, perhaps it'll be a positive because we won't have to stop there to go pick up garbage either. So, like I said, it's going to be kind of see what happens as we test this out in various locations.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for Dave or Ryan? John Buck?
Hello, yes, Madam Mayor and the council members. I just wanted to add to that weekly recycling piece as it relates to the compliance with the ordinance. I've reviewed, the current city code as it relates to that, and the language says currently that the city requires recycling to be picked up at least bi-weekly. So that way that it is worded, it does not contradict with the county ordinance. So no change would be needed there.
Oh, good. Okay. Because to Ryan's point, and I live across from a park, and sometimes the recycling one is not as full as the regular trash. So, yeah. And I do know that our staff, our sustainability staff, are very good with things inside City Hall about making sure we are all educated as to what is organic, and there are pictures in what is recyclable and what is regular trash. And there are pictures that tells us what's supposed to go into that trash bin.
Madam Mayor, I think bringing up the sustainability aspect, this stuff does meet our sustainability goals. It totally does. It fits in with that.
So I because I know what we've been doing with regard to sustainability and to organics and recyclables and regular trash. So how much are we off then, Ryan, in being in alignment with what the county is asking of us?
It's basically adopting either the entire or portions of their ordinance. So one nice part about if we adopt portions of their ordinance or the whole thing, is if they change theirs, then ours would automatically auto update when theirs updates. So it's trying to get on the same language, not contradicting each other. It's not massive changes. Like I said, we're already doing it already says multifamily has to do it. So it's the fact that we have to be in alignment is why we have to do this. So we're going to be referencing the 110 ordinance in multiple locations, or perhaps adopting the whole thing.
Okay, and I see that in the budget impact, what is that going to be like for us? Because you said that you're going to be experimenting and getting a better understanding of what the budget impact is going to be.
It should be relatively mild this year, that we could fit into the operating budgets that we've tried. If it turns out that we have to provide significant more recycling containers and more pickup at all 77 parks, because it just didn't work for the carry and carry out, that'll be something we have on budget in 2022. And I do understand the challenges there, but we're hopeful that any modifications will be very mild to what that could be. That is what we identified as our biggest challenge. There is some discussion on, the having back of, if you're having a big or preparing a lot of food at an event, there could be extra expense to people who put on these events to have to provide this organic recycling. That requirement doesn't come into account till 2024. So we have some time on that one, but otherwise, if for some reason all of a sudden this multifamily thing turns around and Chris Forsen's group has to go out all the time to do a lot of enforcement, that could also be something. But like I said, we already had that in the ordinance that said multifamily shall have the opportunity to recycle. So that what they're saying there is, if a renter says, I can't recycle, the place is not enforcing it, that would bring us into the mix to work with that facility, that they are providing a reasonable way to recycle. So that was one of the main focuses of this ordinance 110, and what the county is trying to get the city to be sure we're doing effectively.
Okay, but the thing is, the county is still enforcing that. So I'm going to go back to the parks. We have one garbage truck. I'm thinking of the vehicles. What are the expenses that we're going to have? We have one garbage truck that goes around and collects from all of the parks, correct?
We have one garbage truck and we have one recycling truck.
So we have one recycling truck and one garbage truck, and I think that's going to be sufficient with what we need to do here.
It'd be more a resource of manning a vehicle as opposed to buying another vehicle.
Okay.
So right now we use the resource that does the recycling to help us in other areas. If we need to staff that all year because we have to go to 77 parks each week, it does add up the amount of time it takes to do that. So that would be more of the challenge to us if we end up having to go to do that.
So does the county help us with some of this added expense, Dave?
Madam Mayor, so the grant will cover things like I'm not a grant administrator, so sorry, I don't know the real specifics of it, but yeah, it'll cover some of your infrastructure costs. It'll cover the container costs, some of your staff costs for some of the activities, and Ryan might actually know better than I do on what everything that it covers. The only thing I know it won't cover is the multifamily enforcement that the city will have to do. It will not cover that, but it covers your public ads. It covers your.
But we're not enforcing the multifamily. You are.
No, I said we would be enforcing the weekly recycling requirement for the haulers, but the multifamily requirement is something that the city will need to put in your ordinance and enforce. But as Ryan said, and that a complaint-based approach, which what you're doing now, is fine at this point.
Okay.
If we don't move that recycling needle far enough, right now we're at about 55%, needs to get to 75% in basically 8 years.
Okay.
We might have to relook at how we're doing this, but as of right now, that's the approach we're going to take, because we've put a lot of new things in place with this ordinance, and we're hoping that we start seeing results.
Okay. Kara, you have a question?
So my comment is, so our enforcement staff already discusses their time constraints, like the constraints that they have on their time trying to accomplish the tasks that we already have them doing. And that's even with us going to a complaint based. So anything that puts an additional burden on them without, and since we're not sure if it will, I mean, would those staff hours be compensated by the county? Is it just a one-time grant to do that? Will they do that in perpetuity? You know, I mean, those are the questions I have. And the mayor's laughing because she knows what I'm saying. She knows the answers to that. So, you know, dang, we're already struggling with stuff. That's my comment.
Well, that's the reason why I ask, you know, who's going to pay for all, yeah. So anyway, Ryan?
So as we are, what we should clarify is the grant they're talking about is what's funds Dakota Valley Recycling.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That's an annual thing that we get. Dakota Valley Recycling appears to be continuing on in the future. They can do all that advertising and promotional and reporting and all that sort of thing. And once again, the multifamily is already in the ordinance. So we could already be having this problem and our people would already be having to react to it. So it's one of the focuses that Dakota County has to make sure that that's in there. Like I said, it is in there. So 1 year, it could be a deal. You get let's say they got 4 new renters come in and they couldn't recycle here, and it could turn into a thing for us. There's no doubt about it if we had to spend a bunch of time out there. On this one, I wouldn't blame the county on this one because it's already there. This isn't a change. Our situation with the parks, you know, that could be, in my opinion, that Dave and I have gone back and forth on this, and I think you'd say that is how are we going to do to get 2 bottles of plastic bottles out of a park? You know, that's where we've struggled with at the staff level more. So, like I said, we're going to try and figure out the most feasible way to do that, and that's what we're trying to do, find the most cost effective. And who knows, sometimes you think it's going to be a negative, and maybe this turns into a positive because now we're not going to a couple of these parks to pick up garbage. So, you know, I'm an optimist, I think, you know, so I'm hoping it goes that route, but you know, you also got to keep in mind if your optimism fails, what is the effect of that. So we're obviously working on that as well.
So Dave and John, the grants that you guys are talking about, aren't those the grants that we receive on a yearly basis with Egan and Apple Valley?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, that's the grant I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so it's already there. It's not any additional grant money that's coming.
It's just one of the resources that the county offers to help with these programs.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it because it's sustainability is important. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that the grant money you're talking about is the grant money that we receive on an annual basis in partnership with Egan and Apple Valley in doing the work that we're doing with regard to recycling.
Yes.
Mayor, I just wanted to point out Lakeville joined DVR 2 years ago as well. So we're 4 cities, just so you're aware.
Oh, good. Finally. I think we were egging them on for the last decade or so.
That's accurate.
Okay. Ryan, is there anything that you need from us? It seems like you have a lot of that in place. And when I read the background with regard to, you know, picking up recycling, and you did mention it, you know, from parks, when you have manpower that you have to go through all 79 parks, and then you're picking up 1 bottle here or 2 bottles there, and you know, that's why I also ask about the vehicles that we have, because
that's why when we started when we started recycling the parks, we chose our 22 biggest ones where they're having events and all that kind of stuff, where we know we can fill up containers easily on a weekend. So, you know, Dakota County's doing what they gotta do. They're getting told from the state, we gotta move that needle, like we said. And I'm hoping we find something that this doesn't turn into where we have to go out to all the parks twice with 2 different vehicles. But so we will be working on the most cost-effective, time-effective method of doing this.
Yeah. And that's what I would say, Ryan, right now, the direction that I would say, members of the council, is that we let Ryan take a look at all of this and bring it back to us, because we have a lot of things already in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is bring the ordinance to you, likely that second one in January, and then let us work through this concern we got and see if we can make this work. And like I said, who knows, maybe we'll find out we're having to go to some parks less.
Yeah, and then also make sure that, I know that we're only talking about the ordinance, but I really want to understand the budget impact as you move along.
Understood. That totally makes sense.
So Dave and John, thank you so much for coming in and informing us, educating us as to what you expect us to do. And my hope for all of you is that you help us. I know that there was a time that you also cut that grant that we received on an annual basis, and then it was reduced.
Madam Mayor, yeah, that's entirely possible. I'm not the grant administrator. I just want to thank you for the opportunity, and we certainly at the county consider this a partnership. And Ryan's been great to work with. The DVR staff's been wonderful to work with. I've been with the county for 30 years, so I've known some of these people that whole time, you know that. And we've been working together for a very long time. And it's going to take all of us to meet this very aggressive goal the state has of 75%. There's no inexpensive way to increase the recycling rate, or we would have done that. Now it just costs money. Yeah. And the state didn't give us any more money to do this either. So thank you very much for the time.
Recycling, sustainability, and protecting our planet is important to us.
Yes.
So
thank you.
We'll do our part.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for coming in and talking with us. Okay.
And Keely's got his hand up.
Oh, yeah, Councilmember Keely.
Well, I just wanted to touch base on this just real quickly because we had a discussion about recycling in our parks not long ago in the last year. Or maybe it was last year, because COVID's become just a blur spot in memory, a very, very bad blur spot. But and I noted a trip I made to the mall when I was there when the cleaning folks were emptying the garbage cans, and it was, you know, just, it's amazing the world we live in. We think about recycling, we execute recycling in our houses and et cetera. And then you go to commercial buildings and there is plastic, glass, aluminum, paper, all over the place. Cardboard's generally recycled, but all these other recyclables are all thrown into the same garbage can with the organic waste and hauled away. And I think, cut all the work we do to recycle, I personally do to recycle, we all personally do, and it's kind of just being neutralized. We almost feel like it's a waste when you go to all these commercial buildings and they're just throwing all kinds of garbage and recycles away all together in the landfill. Just go, you know, if we're not all doing this, if we're not all rowing in the same direction, then the ones that are rowing feel like we're wasting our time. And so for consistency's sake, I'm happy that the state and the county is saying, all right, all commercial entities have to recycle and have recycling bins. So we're all doing it. Either we all do it, or why are we bothering, right? Because we're making a small dent in recycling. I mean, there's a lot of debates on whether the cost of recycling itself. I've seen enough evidence myself. I've learned a lot at our CLA meetings, speaking to waste management officials, speaking to and listening to presentations from Republic. They really have, you know, when you see it in the massive millions of tonnage of recycling, it really kind of hits home on the benefits of it. So I'm glad that we're doing this so we get everybody rowing in the same direction. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your coming in.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yep. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, have a good night. We're moving on to the next item, and this is the community engagement part of.
I think Ryan had like one last thing.
Oh, Ryan
Sorry.
had
Yeah, I just was under spot. I believe that through this, the county will continue with the enforcement of commercial recycling. So if you see something like that and want us to help report that, let me know. And Dave is on the line. I see that still, so you'll more accurately describe that.
Yeah, the county is going to take care of the commercial recycling component of this as best we can. There's about 10,000 businesses in the county, and I have one person to work on that. But we're going to try and use that staff time of the biggest bang for the buck. So you won't see every container at the mall that you mentioned. Keely, is it Keely? Sorry.
Keely, thank you.
Yeah, I can't read, this print is so small. We won't hit every container in the whole county. We won't be able to, but we're going to try. We're already working with the bigger businesses and trying to move that needle as best we can. But yeah, that's our job. So if you see something, you feel free to report it to us, and we'll respond to those complaints.
Well, I appreciate that.
Say that,
some of it's
Dave.
messaging, right?
Yeah.
Just when you get everybody on board, everybody that works at a building that doesn't recycle, they recycle at home. So when they go to their building and they don't see recycling, it probably, all they need is a reason to do this, right? We're doing it at home. Why aren't we doing it at my office, type of thing? And I think you'll get a lot of people jumping on board when they see the press about it and the efforts being made.
Okay, very good. Are we all done? Are we moving on? Okay, thank you so much. Now we are at community engagement, and this is an update. And presenting this evening is Carissa Larson and Amber Jacobson. Ladies, the Zoom floor is yours. And there's no action required, except you've got a lot to share with us. And I enjoyed reading your report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, for having us here tonight. My name is Carissa Larson. I am the Communications and Community Engagement Director here at the city. And joining me tonight is Amber Jacobson. She is our Experience and Engagement Manager. And we're here to give you just a little bit of background on a strategic plan we recently went through and some community engagement recommendations that came out of it for our department. So as a little bit of background, in late 2019, the Communications Department began to discuss doing a new strategic plan. It had been several years since we'd done one. Wanted to make sure we were still, reaching the community effectively and continuing to serve them as best we can. So we hired AE2S Communications as some consultants to help us come in, give kind of an outside look into what we were doing and how we can, have some opportunities for strength where we're strong, where we could use a little bit more work. So we're here today just to provide you on some background on some of those things that came out of it. And Amber's got some fun things to talk about that we have in the works already. So next slide, please. So you see here the goals that came out of our final plan. These 4 goals are overarching for everything that our department does. They guide all of the work we do. And they cover increasing engagement and reach of our messages, doing the right things at the right time, being effective with our communication. We restructured our department just a little bit to make sure that we were, using staff resources effectively. And our final goal is to kind of elevate the importance of communications among staff, encourage them to think a little more proactively about communication. The plan also makes recommendations on some tactics for areas like social media, recruitment, internal communications, and videography. But perhaps the biggest change out of our strategic plan from previous years was the recommendation to add a focus on community engagement within our department. Next slide, please. Our strategic plan actually kind of came together just as council was adopting their vision and strategic priorities. So this was really great timing for us. It gave us opportunity to ensure that our work was aligned with the direction of council's strategic priorities. Council also recently adopted strategic priority measurables, and those in particular, the community engagement and organizational services measurables will help us kind of get a foundation for some of our work and a foundation for the evaluation that we can do as we go through our work as well. Now, Burnsville city staff have always done great work in community engagement. So this is by no means, judgment on anything that's been done in the past. We want to make sure that we're doing, that we're keeping up with best practices. We also had a lot of interviews with staff during the strategic planning process. And during those interviews, staff expressed a desire to better serve populations in Burnsville that may not feel very connected to the city. So the recommendation to focus on community engagement with our department can help champion some of those inclusion and belonging initiatives and programs throughout all departments in the city, using best practices and kind of encouraging staff along where people may not quite feel like they know what to do in terms of engaging certain populations. Next slide, please. So in September, our department got a little bigger. Amber, who you may know was with our recreation department for a number of years, joined our department and became the experience and engagement manager. Her role is to work with all departments to bring thoughtful and intentional community engagement strategies to a variety of city work. Her role involves building deep community relationships, researching best practices, and working hand in hand with city staff to bring those engagement opportunities to life in whatever projects staff may be working on. Amber's also taken on the role of managing the City Hall Public Experience team. This team has traditionally been known as City Hall's front desk staff, but several months ago, they began to reimagine how to create positive experiences for everyone who enters City Hall. So as they go through that work, we hope to kind of use that as a pilot and an example on how we can begin to bring positive experiences in other areas of city work, just to make sure that every time someone interacts with city staff, interactions are as positive as they possibly can be. A little bit of more background on Amber's position. The move was FTE neutral because, like I said, she came over from the recreation department. Though if you flip through our plan, the back of the plan talks about department structure, and there is recommendation in the plan for adding additional positions long-term in order to create a cultural experience specialist. But again, that's more of a long-term thing. Right now, Amber is the one focusing on most of the community engagement work in our department. Next slide, please. So we've had a lot of discussions about community engagement in our department over the last few months. And as we've been having these discussions, we are defining community engagement as an active relationship between the city and our community. And we believe that this needs to include public participation and equal opportunities for all voices to be heard to foster an engaged and inclusive community. Burnsville is beautiful in its diversity. And so we want to make sure that as an organization, we begin to think about how to be inclusive for a wide variety of audiences, such as culturally diverse populations, older adults, multifamily housing communities, our LGBTQ community, socioeconomic diverse populations, people with a variety of ability levels, and many others. So we know that this can't be a one-size-fits-all approach because engagement involves a lot of collaboration. It's important to us that our engagement strategies involve intentional interactions with people so that we're doing things for them that the public would like, that our community would like to see. Of course, part of this work will also explore what's been done locally here in Minnesota and nationally in terms of community engagement to make sure that we're rooting ourselves in best practices. And we'll take some of those ideas and figure out how to make them uniquely Burnsville to serve our community better. So that's a little bit of the background, and I'll turn it over to Amber for the fun stuff so she can tell you about some of the exciting projects we have in the works.
Thank you, Carissa. We go to our next slide, please. Madam Mayor and members of the council, We want to move from a community-based model to a community-led model. This means we will ask residents what they need and want instead of trying to plan for them without input. And as we begin to listen to community voices, we will be implementing a large resident and business survey in the next couple of months. This survey will intentionally invite a wide and diverse sampling of the community. The people served by the city are part of the active strategies the city will deploy by including the community in the conversation, especially those who we haven't traditionally connected with. And when we're able, we will meet residents where they are. This will include community conversations at parks and multifamily communities and neighborhoods and in other places where our residents are. Next slide, please. We have always valued our relationships with partners and outside organizations. We want to continue to nurture those relationships and also focus on building new ones. Another goal is to bring partners and organizations together to work on better serving the community. We have already had some meetings with partners and we are working on connecting with others. Some of the groups we've met with already include ISD 191, Experience Burnsville, Burnsville Community Education, including a Know Your Neighbor community meeting, and with the International Festival of Burnsville Chair. We also plan to work with the Chamber of Commerce, the faith community, the International Festival of Burnsville Committee, multi-housing managers, and more. In addition, we are exploring pulling together a regular group of informal advisors of local community members to help us further our goals. Next slide. In addition to the goals laid out in the council's community engagement policy, which you will see here on the slide, our strategic plan recommends a few engagement goals that all city staff can participate in. These include increased participation in initiatives and projects, reaching portions of the community that may not currently feel engaged, creating opportunities to go where the people are, and to formulate relationships and coalitions. These goals are at the heart of all of our engagement conversations and activities. Next slide. City staff has always done a great job working with the community, like Carissa mentioned, and we all know, and they want to do even better in reaching residents who may not currently feel connected with the city. For example, the police department has always had great relationships through community-oriented policing and the Community Resource Office, and they want to work together on new initiatives to engage the community. The engineering department recently offered an open house at a community park because they recognized that there was an opportunity to reach people who might not be able to get to City Hall. And that is a wonderful way of meeting people where they are. We plan to do that as much as possible moving forward. And we have been working on multiple initiatives since this position was implemented in September, including Night to Unite, which was canceled in many communities. And as you all know, staff couldn't visit neighborhoods like we traditionally do, but we were still determined to find a way to connect with our residents in a meaningful way. So we creatively and safely engaged the community by putting together bags with city information and fun trinkets and delivered them to neighborhood organizers who requested them for their neighborhoods. City staff from communications and community engagement, police and fire worked together to stuff and deliver almost 3,000 bags to 89 Burnsville neighborhoods. And that's a great example of how departments work together to serve the community. We are also involved in planning the winter lighting ceremony with the Burnsville Community Foundation. The winter lighting contest was brought back to Burnsville this year, and that is well underway and is helping to bring cheer to our residents this season. We assisted with the Be a Santa to a Senior program again this year. This program engaged city staff in providing gifts to isolated seniors in the community. Approximately 350 local seniors were nominated for the program. And I organized all the gifts that city staff donated, which was very, very generous, and dropped them off at the senior center where they will be sorted and delivered to those in need. The Communications and Community Engagement Department has completed planning meetings with all city departments. And the goal of the meetings is to find out what needs each department has and how we can support their work. Some examples will include working with Public Works on their visioning plan, being part of the multimodal and complete street study team, and helping to engage the community throughout that study. I also sit in recreation department meetings to plan activities and events such as Polar Fest, and will assist police and fire with furthering their efforts. We will also assist and collaborate with departments as they begin work on placemaking efforts. Chris and I are also members of the Inclusion and Belonging Steering Committee. This group is coordinated by the Human Resources Department and is made up of 10 city staff members. And the goal is to foster a high level of staff engagement, a strong sense of belonging. And this committee will be a trusted guide and resource for guiding inclusion and belonging training for the city. Next slide. So now that I've shared what's currently in the works, I'd like to tell you more about future ideas. There are some longer term strategies that may require extra resources, such as regional and national speakers, a community engagement online platform, and a community engagement vehicle. The community engagement vehicle is a recommendation we're really excited about because it would enable us to bring city services into the community to connect with people where they're at. We are exploring ways to creatively and responsibly fund these future tactics. And as we look to 2021, we believe that we can move forward on several projects without any budget implications. We plan to hold staff trainings, lunch and learns, which may include topics such as cultural competency, the makeup of the Burnsville community, and how to provide excellent customer service to all. We hope to find local experts who can speak on these topics. We will also be exploring translation services. We really want to make sure to do our research on this and not assume things about community needs. And we know it's an important service, and we want to make sure we're doing it well. We plan to schedule community conversations with city staff and invite community members. We also plan to partner on community workshops with ISD 191 Community Education. And as we've been in conversations with the International Festival Chair and Experience Burnsville, there have been discussions on partnering together to provide virtual cooking classes that celebrate the cultures of Burnsville. And this is another initiative we're really excited about because it has the potential to reach diverse audiences and bring people together. And who doesn't like food? So we're excited about that one as well. Now I'm going to turn it back to Carissa.
I think we're all looking to food more and more as a comfort in today's changing world. Madam Mayor and members of the council, again, this is really just an update. We wanted to use this meeting to share a little bit about our work with you. But as long as we were here, we wanted to also take this opportunity to ask if council is supportive of the early direction of our efforts. And additionally, if there's anything that we can do to help you as council members make great connections in our community. So thank you again for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. Oh, Madam Mayor, you're muted.
Chris and Amber, thank you. And this was a very great report. I enjoyed going through it, but it also highlighted a lot of things that can be done. So, and your department interviews were really good. I mean, when you look at what you touched with regard to, what's unique about the department, what's their resident engagement, what works well for them, what are their concerns, and what are the opportunities. The opportunities, when I look at them, they're also an opportunity for us to look at what are they going to do with it? Are these some things that we can measure? Are these goals and objectives, when we look at the strategic priority, can we add into it? And the other thing is that Amber and Carissa, I really like the fact that we're going back to community-led, because that's what we did that culminated in getting the garage, because it was the youth who told us that we were lacking in a place where they could gather, a place like a youth center, but they didn't want to call it a youth center. They wanted to call it what they wanted to call it, and we let them do that. That's their space. And that's also what happened with the skateboard park. It was the youth through our Partnerships for Tomorrow. And that's why I think it's very important to be talking, engaging the community and letting them tell us what they want. This is their community. We're only privileged to be the stewards of their assets. We're only privileged to be here to serve and to do what we need to do. But I really like this piece, the piece where you looked at all of the departments, because it also highlighted for me, because I know fire has been wanting to have social media, but it was interesting to read, because I know that police has a Twitter account and the city has an account on Facebook and on Twitter and so forth. But on the fire department side, there isn't a Twitter account and there isn't a Facebook page. And then on what they do, it's the union who puts out information from fire. Then I read and it says that the fire department wants to have a social media channel for recruitment, public awareness, and real-time safety awareness. You know, I see that as a goal and an objective if we're going to do something that, but everyone, I think you guys did an excellent job, because just going through this, I'm going to hang on to this because it's great. You guys did great work. The communication structure, the organizational structure, and how you're looking through all of this. There's a lot of information to unpack. Really a lot of information to unpack. A lot of information that can help us to look at our strategic priorities. So great work, ladies. I'm just impressed with the work that you guys have done with this report. So Greg, as the lead with all of this, I don't know what you thought, you and Melanie, but this is a work.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would agree, and I'll take the opportunity to recognize both Carissa and Amber. Despite a global pandemic, they both have entered new roles, different roles in the organization, and from my perspective, done a phenomenal job in continuing strong positive direction when it comes to communications, community engagement, and really being intentional about what does the future look like and carrying out your strategic priorities. So thank you for those compliments, and I'm very excited to see what both of them will do in terms of leading us into the future.
Well, the other thing is that you made comparisons to what we're doing and what other cities are doing. I mean, hey, good work, Burnsville. When you look at what we're doing with regard to Brooklyn Parks, Plymouth, Edina, St. Louis Park, Coon Rapids, and then you compare on all of the different areas that you reviewed, from their communication staff to their engagement staff, and to look at what we're doing in comparison to what they're doing. That's really great information.
It is, and it's been fun to see that, you know, we talk about being boldly leading and being on the leading edge, and I think this is an area where we have a really great history and we have a really great future. So thanks for that feedback.
Yeah. The other thing is, when you look at the segmentation piece, that's why I said there's a lot of information here to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of information to unpack. And Melanie, I think we should have some time where it's dedicated to unpacking this, because it is so good. I really liked it. So I don't know about my colleagues, but no, it's very good work. Excellent work. Excellent work.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor.
Is there any comments? Just great work, you guys. Great work.
Yeah, there is a whole lot of information packed in that. I mean, it is an encyclopedia of really good information, and obviously you got a lot of work to pull all that together and put it in this document and let us know what you're planning on doing. But I really appreciate it. Great work. I don't want to echo or just repeat what the mayor said. It's good stuff. And it was a heavy read, but I learned a lot from it.
Yeah, but it's something where when we look at our strategic priorities, there's a lot of areas here that you can have goals and objectives to evaluate how we're doing on an ongoing basis. On a yearly basis, what are we doing and how are we delivering the things that came out of this document? You know, you did great work. So how do we get to the deliverables? Okay.
Madam Mayor, thank you for the comments for the team. We will plan to bring updates back to the council if that's something the council is looking for.
I would like that. I hope the council, because it's a great document. There's a lot of good work here to be done.
Yeah, I think more than just tonight is owed to this. I think we owe it to the team to really dive into this and get to know it on a very intimate level. It's a very, very good document.
Yeah.
I did not know we had that many charter subscribers in the city compared to Comcast. I thought Comcast was like 80% of the city and everybody else had 20. Charter is really not that far behind, and they actually have lost a lot as Comcast has to
That's
streaming,
what
but
I mean.
they're big.
That's what I mean. There is so much good information here. Things that we didn't know and we think we know, we don't know until this document. Yeah. And then you look at how much we lost in Comcast.
Yeah, I mean,
you
and
know,
that's been going on year after year after year, but it seems to be picking up a little speed with
Yeah.
more streaming options. I mean, even NBC Comcast put out their Peacock, so they're essentially saying, we got to get into this game, or we're just going to continue to shrink over here. So let's start capturing them over here. And with Disney's big deal, and now their big announcement of more Star Wars spinoffs. I mean, that's going to drive that.
You've got
Netflix.
Amazon, you've got Hulu, you've got
Hulu.
all of these, and so yeah. You know what?
So-
The paradigms have shifted, and
Yeah.
Comcast needs to get their act together, because they've told me, you know, and I said, well, you know what? That's an FCC kind of
Right.
ruling, you know. That's
But
not
I think I'm glad that you cited the ideas on what are we going to do as this PEG fee just continues to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Right?
Yeah.
We've known it's coming. Fortunately, it didn't drop overnight. It wasn't a cliff, so we've had time to think about and dialogue on some ideas on what we're going to do. But it's definitely picking up a little speed.
Well, as you know, when we've been going through this challenge with getting a new agreement with Comcast, we knew that the day will come that we're not going to have that franchise fee.
Right.
And so I think staff, Melanie and Greg, I think we've got a schedule to wean ourselves off that milk, correct?
Yeah, we have put in a phased schedule to move communications into the general fund.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's going to go away. You can see it, and this report even points to it. So it's really a great report.
Yeah, the PEG fees are going to go away because Comcast and Charter are focusing on being ISPs, and they don't pay fees to be ISPs.
Right.
They'll still be out there, and they're still going to be streaming. They're just going to do it a different way, which will avoid the fees that they currently pay today.
Yeah, they are. Everybody is shifting.
Yep.
You know, yeah. Okay, very good, Melanie, Greg, Carissa, Amber.
One quick question before we close out. Amber and Carissa, will you be starring in the new commercials that we're going to be selling to raise money for our non-PEG-B supported community television going forward?
We were looking to the mayor and council, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Feeling,
No.
And will we sell space, commercial space, or will it be like Twin Cities Public Television where it's you just get a logo and it's brought to you by these companies, but they don't actually get to run a commercial?
I hear sponsorship coming, council member. Your sponsorship.
I have
We can do
ideas
the voice
for
of-
pay-per-view.
Paper.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
going to move
Burnsville
on.
OnlyFans.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Great work. Great work. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, council members, we're at roundtable, not roundtable, your reports. Because there's no roundtable tonight. Councilmember Gustafson, you're, I'm looking at.
I'm first up, all right.
Yeah.
Well, we all heard the CVB marketing presentation a few weeks ago, which I thought was absolutely stellar, and she really knocked it out of the park. That group did a heck of a job putting together what they're going to do for the next year. And as we were listening to what our staff is doing, it all fits together as we still continue down this messaging road about Burnsville and who we are, and what we do, which is very important. On the DBB, we just had our last meeting of the year. George Torville was our chairman and mayor of Evergrove, and he retired this year, so he won't be coming back. And Mary Hammond Rowland was elected to county commissioners, and she will not be coming back. George was our chair and Mary was our vice chair. And so at our last meeting, I was elected the interim chair until February. And Luke Heller was from Lakeville, which should be a lot of fun to work with, was elected our vice chair. So that's the news that's going on now. And I know Kara Cook is coming to see us in February. And that's it.
Okay, going across my screen here, Kara.
Mine are good.
You're good. Okay, Vince.
Here. I have nothing to report.
Dan. Okay.
Don't do. Oh yeah.
You're muted, Dan.
Don't tell him.
Yeah, don't tell him he's muted.
Yeah, Kara saying,
Yeah, no fair.
Hey, let the record reflect that I let you know, council member.
Thank you.
And I wouldn't have.
Thank you, Melanie. Well, you all know about the STA news and the Minnesota Valley Transit Authority issue with the red line.
Congratulations, Dan. I'm sorry I didn't do that earlier.
No problem. Thank you very much. You were once on that tab board, so you know the good work it does, right? MBTA did have to turn over the red line to the Met Council, Metro Transit. I will say on camera that comments were made by leadership of the Met Council that really took me back. Veiled threats, bullying. It was really very out of character for the people that were making these comments to speak to Luther Widener in such a way, and our board chair. They basically said, it's ours and we're going to take it over, period, end. We're not interested in talking about it. We're not interested in negotiating about it. We're not interested in finding a solution. We're not interested in delaying it. It's ours and we're going to take it. In fact, your continued efforts to lobby your state representatives in support of wanting to delay it till next July won't bode very well for future transit funding. That's not a very veiled threat. That's a very direct threat. And we take it very seriously. It was really bad government. I was shocked because that person didn't come from government. Very disappointed in the Met Council. So we're working through schedules and some scheduling, but in fact, the Met Council decided not to actually use the Apple Valley Transit depot building. They're actually just stopping the buses on Cedar and doing the pickups there. So they're somewhat avoiding the issue of using the Apple Valley Transit Station, which is the property of MBTA. Met Transit has no authority to go in there. And we said that, we kind of made it an issue, But we also said, you know, if you're willing to work with us and delay this, let's work on a solution together. They didn't give a damn about working on a solution together. They only cared about getting their drivers on that route. And so they are not currently using the Apple Valley Transit Station. It's really a sour situation, and to the point where we're actually actively working on ideas to move out from underneath the Met Council, which would fix a problem that's been going on forever, as Madam Mayor will attest.
But
The model, you can't depend on your funding source from your competitor.
Yeah.
Because they will cheat, and they have, to win routes, to win contracts, because they can, because they are their own funding source. They're across the hall is their funding source. MBTA can't play games like that. And so we're at a loss again. And it is a disappointment. Now, conversely, there's a lot of work to be done. We're not done fighting, but kudos, mega kudos to Mayor Couts, who sat on that Blue Ribbon Commission and got tremendous kudos that I'll pass along to you from the STA members, all our member cities and leadership, our lobbyists. We're all extremely impressed with your comments, Madam Mayor, going to bat for STA and the suburban opt-outs in this type of situation. Mayor Hovland also got a lot of kudos and thank yous for his strong words in defense of suburban transit providers against this constant threat from the Met Council to essentially try and cut us up and then take us over. And so we have a lot to do. The Blue Ribbon Commission did help. We'll see what the governor ultimately does with their final recommendation. There was some bad language that was taken out thanks to the mayor and Mayor Hovland, but we have a long way to go. But what a frustrating position. I have really got a new found lower level of respect for the Met Council based on what they just did over the last 6 months, quite frankly. So it is, I know this is a public meeting. I hope all of them are watching it or get a chance to watch it and heed our words. We don't take kindly to people behaving the way they did and making those types of threats. We don't do it. We take the high road and we stay on the high road, but we're not going to forget what was said and what was done. And we have to get back to the table, get them back to the table, and talk about how we actually partner on providing transit instead of this constant fighting for territory where they are the big heavy hand of government that comes down on suburban opt-outs, regardless of our authorization by the legislature in the late 80s to validate and create us as an entity, as a suburban opt-out. We still are living under the heavy hand of some really bad government decisions by the Met Council. And I'm hoping that the Met Council's governance changes. And I'm hoping that the oversight of the suburban transit providers is able to change. It's not going to happen easily. It's going to take a lot of work, but there's another agency within the state government that I believe is a far better fit, far less political, and it gets us out of this model where we're competing against our transit competitor for funds.
Yeah. Okay. So Dan, and I think you all heard that my remarks at the Blue Ribbon Committee was that ship the suburban transit services into MnDOT, just as MnDOT takes care of Greater Minnesota Transit.
Yes.
So we'll see. And then we're going to be at a webinar at the university, and hopefully that will also get the university to take a look at transit service to make that shift over to MnDOT. So the other thing that is very disturbing, because a lot of money has been spent on the transit station for the Red Line on Cedar Avenue, both in Apple Valley and in Eagan. So
Yep.
Are you telling me that the Met Council, the Metro Transit is not using those facilities? So now you've got that big parking deck, that
Yeah.
very expensive station
Yes.
on Cedar in Apple Valley, and the other one also in Eagan,
Right,
where
next to the
there
outlet
are
mall.
skyways on both.
Mm-hmm.
They're not operational anymore?
I have not been told that Red Line Met Transit buses are not using the Egan Transit Station, but I was told they are not utilizing the Apple Valley Transit Station. Of course, all of our MBTA buses, and there's a lot of routes that go through those stations. The Red Line isn't the only thing that utilizes those stations. They're all continually running and using those stations. It's just the Red Line riders are getting on a Met Transit bus along Cedar, right? In that same vicinity, but they're just pulling over along Cedar and picking up. I actually drove by there yesterday morning and again this morning, and I witnessed MBTA buses, 2 or 3 of them queued up at the station, some in the back, and I did see a Red Line bus in both cases, one Metro Transit Red Line bus sitting a little further to the north of where the MBTA buses were. So that was just sitting right along, but it was not essentially in that overhang or that area where the pickup curve is. So very interesting dynamic going on and very unfortunate. I mean, we put an olive branch out for months, 2 or 3 months, and the way they handled the communication was horrible. I mean, it's not how you handle a partner, it's how you dismiss somebody that is, someone that you don't have any respect for, you don't really want to partner with. And very all around, just really bad. I mean, every member city representative, whether that be a county commissioner or a city council member in the STA and on our MBTA board, expressed just utter disgust with how the Met Council handled this from the start. And certainly in the end, when we were being told, we're being basically threatened for asking our legislators to represent us and bring this to the table to ask for a delay until March or even July of next year. That's uncalled for in government.
All right. Well, congratulations on being appointed to the tab. It's great for Burnsville to get that back, because I just hated it when we lost it, because it takes a long time. And nobody wants to even surrender their seats. So
yeah, I got on MBTA in 2010, and I first applied it probably maybe in 2011, the year later. I've been applying, and then I got off MBTA and then came back on, and I've been applying every year since. And they do it by region, so metro cities, and our city manager Melanie Lee serves on metro cities. She knows they allocate by region, and the South region was covered. Mary Hammond Rowland's on it. Gary Hansen
Mary had that seat for right after we.
Yes, after we lost it.
And he didn't. Nobody wanted to give up. That's kind of a
right. They occupy those seats for a very long time. They don't want to give them up. So.
All like it. It has a lot of significance.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm really honored and thrilled to be able to represent the STA communities, not just Burnsville and MBTA, but the rest of them on that tab seat, and look forward to the first meeting in January.
Yeah.
I've watched several meetings, so I know what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah, good. Okay, Vince, you have anything?
Nope.
Okay, I only have, mine is very brief. Our municipal legislative commission met, and we honored the outgoing mayors like George Torville and Mary Hammond Rowland, and then we approved our meetings. But the most important thing is that we rehired our lobbyist, which is Melanie. The name of our lobbyist.
Messerly and Kramer, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Yeah, and the other thing that was important is that we rehired them, and we approved the retainer and the contract, and we went over the conflict of interest. We also scheduled the legislative breakfasts, and we talked about the special session and the small business relief. And then we also are re-engaging our fiscal disparities task force. So those are the most important things. And the other is that the Regional Council of Mayors, I think the most important thing that you should know is that we had a futurist talk to us. As we look to the future, things are not going to be the same. And so businesses, and Dan, you've been sending articles about how retail is shifting and so forth, and how things are going to be used. It was very good. I can send you all the his website and so forth, but it's Jack Aldrich, and I don't know if any of you know of him. He's written books, and he is very good. This is the second time that I've heard him, and he's very impressive. So that was that, and we had discussions of our priorities. And that was it. So, Melanie, anything else from staff's point of view?
Happy end of 2020. Let's hope 2021 is a little less exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody. Thanks.
And I will, because I'm in my 70s, you guys, so I'm in that tier B, right? I think it's tier B. Tier 1B.
You'll be getting the vaccine, is that what you're
I
saying?
will be getting, going to go get the vaccine.
Would you have it recorded and get it out on social media and show that it is a safe vaccine? Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta all roll together there, Dan. We all roll together.
Yeah.
That's right. I just want to point out that Melanie Lee is showing the Christmas green hue. In my picture, you have a green hue to you. So, and Madam Mayor's wearing the red, so we've got our Christmas colors going.
Yeah.
I have two things to add, Elizabeth, if I may.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I went and took another COVID test.
Yeah.
Got the results back tonight, negative. Thank you.
Yay.
Very much. So we'll keep doing that. And I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays. And we'll see each other, if not this way, out and about. There's not much out and about that we're doing now. Okay.
Get out in the stores and shop for Christmas.
Yeah.
Help our retailers.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We stand adjourned by acclamation. Good night, everyone, and Merry Christmas, happy holidays.
Thank you.